Greetings, and welcome to House of R, a Ringerverse podcast on the Ringer Podcast Network. I'm Mallory Rubin. Joining me today to let me know that 2 of the clam things got out, you know, the octopus with the long fingers, it's probably going to be fine. It's Joanna Robinson and Rob Mahoney. It's a team up.
Oh my God.
Truly.
Everyone's here to be murdered systematically
Yes.
on a spaceship. Folks, I've missed you. I've been gone. It's so happy back in this cousin marrying shithole valley, you fuck cousin.
I've got some notes from Boy Cavalier on how he recruits talent.
The pitch is not great. Let's be honest with you. That's a hang up from me right there.
And yet it worked. So maybe we have notes for Petrovich at the end of the day. Joanna, darling, we missed you terribly. It is wonderful to emerge from our cryopods together to discuss Alien Earth episode 5. What an episode to reunite for.
I know. Big one.
We've got a lot of fun stuff to get to today. The 3 of us are going to break down episode 5, In Space, No One, ... That's what it's called. Great stuff. I love it. You know, that was one of the first things that Noah Hawley wrote down. It's I'm going to call an episode In Space, No One, ... And I can't fucking wait.
No one can hear you fucking Bronski in a random corner of...
Turns out they can, unfortunately.
Yeah. Everyone has seen the tape.
Your crewmates are filming you.
Clem always listening.
Oh.
Not good, Clem. Not good, Clem.
We need to clear something up right up top. Look, the footage is a little grainy. Everyone has seen the sex tape.
Yeah.
I need you both to assure me that that is not the alien egg and facehugger containment room.
Oh, they're fucking anywhere that there's a flat surface.
Oh.
You have to. What are you going to do? Fucking your cryopods?
I couldn't really tell because it looked similar to the other room on the video. So it does seem like they were fucking in there. But there also seemed to be a cot involved.
Was there? I thought they were just on the cold floor on like a blanket.
Okay.
I think we can
at least had like a cot.
Listen, there's that moment where Clem says tomorrow, the last 8 months, they have fucked everywhere. There is not a corner of the Maginot where they have not fucked.
They have quarters. Like Morrow went to his quarters to read all of his sad letters from his daughter. They have rooms they could fuck in.
But it's taboo. They're clearly trying to hide it, which I understand. But all of this means, like, at some point, the eyeball jockey has watched them fuck.
Of course, no question. They're making the same mistake that Arthur and Dame Sylvia made in episode 4.
Thinking there's a corner.
Out of view of the cameras. You know? I'm sure that their quarters are monitored. So they're like, we need to go somewhere where,
if Bronski...
Blind spot.
If they had sex in the lab.
Yeah.
I would like to formally retract what I can only describe as a screed that I have prepared for Chiriboga and her lab protocols.
They're not
completely unacceptable.
They're not great.
Completely unacceptable.
She's an angel if someone actually like fucked in that lab at one point.
Oh, yeah.
With all the creepy crawlies. And
I don't know if they're fucking
slithering
in the lab,
tentacles.
but certainly the zoo, the storage container area, like someone is fucking near a tentacle at some point. No question. Yeah. What are you going to do? You're in space for 65 years.
You have a room. You have a room. That's all
it's true.
Say.
Look, over those 65 years, everybody's kinks are intensifying, including the eyeball monster. So I salute all of them.
Big episode for eyeball jockey.
I would take a close quarters in the cryopod before I would take, next to a tentacle.
The thing about the cryopod is, I think,
for 2? Come on, it's fine.
That's
despite
adorable.
what Tang would have us all believe, it's just too close to your crewmates to be, I think, acceptable.
Well, if the rest of them are snoozing, they'll never know.
Let me ask you guys this. Do you have the power to obliterate from my mind the sentence, do your filth?
Oh, no.
While she sleeps. Because I would like to remove that forever. We should issue our spoiler warning. What happened in Alien Earth episode 5. It could come up today if it has happened to this point in this season of Alien Earth. It could, of course, come up today. Anything that's ever happened in an alien film could come up today. We have not watched ahead in the season, so we do not know what is still to come in the final episodes of Alien Earth, and thus will not be talking about any of that. We will, however, later today, be talking to Noah Hawley himself and Babou Ceesay, who plays Morrow. Joe and I are going to be chatting with them both at the end of this episode, so stay tuned for that. We're going to talk about some of what we saw and learned and witnessed in episode 5 and just the season to date so far. So very much looking forward to that chat. We actually have not spoken to them yet at the time of this recording. So
it went well. It went really well.
I'm just going to assume it went great.
It was great.
Just going to assume it went great. Listen, guys, this is a meeting, not a meal. So before we dive in, we do have some quick programming reminders that we need to hit. It's a big one. The second pod this week on House of R is Buffy.
It's about damn time, y'all.
Can I just say,
Look,
can I just say that
the situation requires it, I have to say.
When I had the just absolute delight and pleasure of mainlining 6 hours of YouTube podcasting together over the last 48 hours, there was a stretch when Mallory was talking about someone being immortal and someone being mortal and them having to reconcile with the fact that how could they have this brother-sister relationship? And I'm like, yeah, it's Buffy and Angel. It's Buffy and Angel. It's Buffy and Rob Mahoney came through and he's like, this is classic Buffy and Angel stuff, which we will talk about on our Buffy Rewatch podcast as we go forward. Very exciting.
I can't wait. Thrilled for that. Looking forward to it immensely. Season 1 coming later this week. My first watch. Well, now I've actually seen it twice.
I know.
Joe's billionth watch.
Yes.
You guys have a lot cooking this week on the Prestige TV podcast as well. Tell everybody what they can look forward to.
Rob?
I'm most looking forward to our future, at this point, as of recording, Hooked episode about the one and only Veronica Mars.
I just spent a lot of time thinking about and watching Veronica Mars this weekend in preparation, and I'm very excited to talk about it. Yeah, so Hooked is continuing with an episode on Veronica Mars, which we're really excited about, and then Bill and Rob and I already recorded our first episode about the new HBO series Task, which is debuting this Sunday.
Yes.
And I'm really excited. That was a really, really fun conversation. And that show fucking rules. And I'm really excited for people to check it out. So.
Look, there's room enough on this corner for 2 shows happening simultaneously. And if Alien Earth is the show of the late summer, I mean, I would think that Task is going to be the show of the fall. It's really set us up.
Ruffalo Fall.
It's always Ruffalo Fall.
Ruffalo.
No.
Yep.
Well,
yes.
Actually, I'll allow it. You know?
Thank you.
Certainly. Without question. I can't wait. Big Sunday night coming in this household. Ravens on Sunday Night Football to open the season. Whew. Then I get to watch Task, and then I get to listen to you guys. Thrilling. Great stuff. Truly
I'm happy for 2 of those things. Apologies on the third. But, you can't win them all.
Is that a Ravens slam?
No, that was an
football,
us slam.
But I think it was a self-deprecating.
I was going to say, Rob, what are you doing talking about football? You don't know anything about that.
Wouldn't know how to do it.
Oh, man. How can everyone follow along? Listen, people know at this point, but let's say it quickly anyway. Follow the pods. Follow House of R. Follow the Prestige TV podcast. Once it's hoop season again, follow the Ringer NBA show so that you can check out group chat. You can watch full video episodes of House of R and the Prestige TV podcast on Spotify, right there in the app. Wonderful stuff. You can also, of course, follow along on YouTube, subscribe to the Ringerverse YouTube channel and the Ringer TV YouTube channel, and then follow us on the social media platform of your choosing, and who are we to tell you what that is? Go where you'd like. Send us your emails while you're there. While you're at your computer, your phone is in your hand. The inbox is open. hobbitsanddragons@gmail.com. Anything else on the programming reminders front before we dive in?
Not a single thing.
Let's do it.
All right, guys, I know 2 things. I know that half a pie is not a whole pie.
Definitively.
And you cannot deceive me into believing otherwise again. And I know that it's time to pod, so let's get to our opening snapshot. Today's opening snapshot is all about Joanna, and it's all about the past. We need to catch up. We need a little table-setting taste of the takes so far. What have you thought? Forget episode 5. We've got time for that. What have you thought of episodes 1 through 4 of Alien Earth? What takes do you need to get off your chest or out of your chest? Through the rib cage, whatever the case may be. Tell us.
They're positively bursting out of me. Thank you so much for asking. I have a few segments that I would like to include here. The first and most important is Joanna Robinson's favorite things about podcasting with Rob Mahoney and Mallory Rubin. I will go through this quickly, but I have some things to say. First of all, both of you love to plus a bit. If I've ever bidded anything before in my life, you two will take the ball, be it a basketball, a baseball, or football, and you will run with it. And that is great. Speaking of balls, Rob has taught me so much about the NBA, and Mallory has taught me so much about baseball, and that matters a lot to me. I can, in fact, name at least 3 current baseball players, and they all play for the Baltimore Orioles. So thank you, Mallory Rubin.
You're welcome.
Pretty good.
Rob, thank you for continuing to encourage my foray into NBA podcasting. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Gunnar Henderson, really, honestly.
Not to interrupt you, Joe, but one of my all-time favorite moments podcasting is the moment where you discovered on mic that there were 2 separate Bogdanoviches in the NBA. It was incredible and tough.
Seems unlikely. Mallory Rubin is enjoys a pint of ice cream, and it is a pint-sized person, and she makes me feel very tall, and I like that about her. Rob is a freakishly tall person, and it makes me feel short, and I like that about him.
Rude, but okay.
All of this is true.
I'm average height.
Mallory is usually a few minutes early to a recording. Rob is usually a few minutes late. So one of you usually makes me feel early, and one of you makes me feel late, and I like that about both of you. Mallory usually loves things just a bit more than I do, and that always pulls me into the direction of loving them. Rob, I find, is often more critical of things than I am. Not Alien Earth. He loves Alien Earth.
But
sometimes Rob, it tends to be a bit more critical than I am, and I like that because it challenges my opinions.
This guy loves an eyeball jockey.
It's true. Mallory makes the most exquisite notes I've ever seen in my entire life, the most exquisite, in-depth, incredible notes ever. Rob hates looking at my notes and prefers to go off the dome, and I love that about him as well. I love that about both of you. Rob, however, loves to read listener emails, and I love that about Rob. And most of all, I just feel so comfortable podcasting with both of you, and I was so sad to not get to do the first 3 episodes of covering this show with you guys, and I'm so excited that I get to do this one with you. So thank you so much for covering for me while I was gone. I really appreciate
Joe,
you.
Thank you
So much.
It was beautiful.
We missed you dearly. We're delighted to be back with you.
Y'all are the best. Okay. Couple things that I scribbled out. I got to play the part of a bad baby, listening to you two have a conversation, be like, but wait, what about, okay, you covered everything perfectly. You got every little corner covered. I just want to plus a few things. I want to say, in the Westworld reference corner, I think there's a lot of people talked about sort of like the Blade Runner, especially since Tim Oliphant is looking a lot like Batty and Blade Runner in this show. A lot of the like Blade Runner conversations about replicants and what makes a human and all that sort of stuff like that. I would say, especially given the like various synth hybrid faces on the wall, this is a very Westworld coded season for me. This idea of bootstrapping consciousness, techno billionaires trying to crack immortality by putting a human brain inside of a synthetic body, all that sort of stuff is like classic, iconic Westworld. Everything went totally fine in Westworld, so don't worry about it. It's going to be absolutely fine.
Thought you were going to say Wall of Faces, go to Bravos. Also, everything there went fine.
Again.
Famously, so.
Absolutely fine. Okay. Lost, a TV show that Rob is about to watch his first 2 episodes of as we do Hooked ongoing. He's going to be watching the Lost pilot. General spoilers for Lost, Rob. I'm so sorry to do this to you.
I'm literally right here.
It has nothing to do with the pilot. It's episode 3, actually. But
okay, that's early enough.
I will just say the character of Curly, who is the only child we meet in a wheelchair at the start of this, being the one child who is like, this is fucking great, actually, and I love it, is very John Locke coded for me. And I was really interested to like, it's so interesting to meet the Lost Boys, find out like where they're all sort of going on their journeys, and then go back and rewatch that introductory scene where they're all, in their little kid bodies, and sort of like, what are the 1 or 2 lines that they're given there to help us, I mean, Isaac is just straight up like, I want to be a scientist. Yeah. So some of
He's
them
also
are
loving
like more subtle than others, but there's all of that. And then to go back to sort of like the Westworld beach, I would say Nibs as like the glitcher. The glitch kid is very important to a story like this. So loving all of that. Quick fly journey over to Peter Pan corner, and then I have theory corner, and then we're done here. We can talk about episode 5. First of all, what are these technocrats, if not pirates plundering a ship washed up on their shores for its treasure? Secondly, I don't think you guys covered this, but maybe you did, but the fact that Arthur and Sylvia are named after the real life parents of the Llewellyn Davies kids who are the inspiration for Peter Pan and the Lost Boys and stuff like that, I think is a really fun
that's a great shout.
moment. But what I think is really interesting is her first name Dame? Is that what's happening with Dame Sylvia? Because it's Arthur Sylvia. Sylvia is his last name. So is her first name Dame? If so, that's just interesting. I
think it is. I don't think this is Dame Helen Mirren.
No.
I think this is Dame Sylvia.
Dame Sylvia, first name Dame, last name Sylvia. Fascinating. Yeah. Okay.
It was too on the nose to name her Nana after she's Peter Pan reference front, you know? Couldn't actually name her after the canine caretaker, so.
Okay. And then just a couple of things that they've hit on the, like Mallory, I've been revisiting the text. This notion of like what children hear in terms of like what Wendy can hear. There's Wendy being able to hear fairies, right? In the book, she says, the only sound I hear is the tinkle of bells. Well, that's the fairy language. I think I hear her too. Like this idea that children can hear fairies, but adults can't. And also in describing Neverland, the narrator in the book says, we too have been there. We can still hear the sound of the surf, though we shall land no more. So this idea of like what you have access to as children, this idea that like, the reason they're children in adult bodies is because their brains are spongy enough in order to make the transition. And that's so much of what Peter Pan is about is like you have access to Neverland as a child that you don't have access to as an adult because your brain solidifies. And Peter has no interest in you if you're an adult at all.
Well, Jo, so, I mean, we and Boy Cavalier have been wondering if the xenomorph is in fact the crocodile. But what your book presupposes is that the xenomorph is in fact Tinkerbell?
Why not both? Because we're in that scene, he's definitely making a Wendy as Hook comp, but also we know that Morrow is also Hook. So yes, I feel like we are just for sure plundering this literary illusion for every sort of reference we can get. On that front of like, Peter's not interested in you if you grow up, this idea of Peter and the new and Boy Cavalier and the new, this accusation that Arthur flings at him of like, you're just interested in this shiny new tech, which though we get more information about this in episode 5, the communique that happened with the Maginot, it doesn't change the fact that he is distracted by shiny new things to explore. And that is iconic Peter Pan. I love this passage from the book where when they're flying for the first time and they keep falling because they keep falling asleep, they don't know how to fly, and Peter saves them. But then it says, he always waited until the last moment. You felt like it was his cleverness that interested in him and not the saving of human life. Also, he was fond of variety, and the sport that engrossed him one moment would suddenly cease to engage him. So there was always the possibility that the next time you fell, he would let you go. So if that's not Boy Cavalier, I don't know what is. Like, it's just a perfect example of he's going to pat himself on the back for the cost of human life, but like, what does he actually care about? What is shiny and new? Also, something that I think people don't remember about Peter Pan, especially if you've just seen the like Disney-fied version that he decides to put on the ceiling, like they're at the dentist's office, that Peter kills the Lost Boys when they get too old inside of the book of Peter Pan. Like, they get killed. Peter feels
like a spoiler
out. When they seem to be growing up, which is against the world, Peter thins them out, is what it says. So
that feels potentially spoilery for the end of the season, I think.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Could see some of that.
And then on the like slightly, I guess, sympathetic to Peter Pan, Boy Cavalier, I will just say this idea that like Boy has expressed a couple times these sentiments that you guys have been asking whether or not they're like genuine, this sort of maybe slight wistfulness for actual connection, and this idea that he is sort of waving through the window, like separated by looking through the eyes of his hybrid robot who's looking through an HR bot who is looking at her brother, like all the ways in which he is removed or on the other side of glass or a screen from something. There's this passage about Peter. He had ecstasies innumerable that other children can never know, but he was looking through the window at one joy from which he must be forever barred. And so I just love this idea that like there is genuinely something in Boy, because there has to be something in Boy Cavalier that is human and is yearning.
Of course.
Underneath all the layers of absolute shitbaggery that we are experiencing. So That's Jamberry Corner. I have a lot of thoughts about how this literary illusion is being used, and you guys have done such a good job tracking it. Last but not least, Theory Corner. I love a theory. I can't help myself. You guys have been really crushing it on Theory Corner. I'm going to pose a couple questions to you guys to see what you think. Do you think it's interesting if Adam, who are sort of the heavy who works at Prodigy, who displays incredible reflexes in catching a ball in episode 4, do you think it is interesting if he is a secret synth?
No, not in this franchise. I think that's like feels played out and not surprising anymore. I think it's actually more interesting if people we think might be secret synths aren't and are just people. Like, I don't know that it's off the table for anybody to be a secret synth. I just don't think I'd be like, okay, sure.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. What do you think, Rob?
I think that's the answer, is like, how big do they play it? If it's played as a huge dramatic reveal, it's like, all right, and continue. Like, what is the resonance of that? But if it's just a turn in the plot, I could be down for it. I don't want there to be much ado about it.
I agree. We'll see how interested a xenomorph might be in him to continue to track that. Okay.
I'm interested in him. I would love the Adam standalone episode.
Okay.
The Snuggie shout out. I mean, it was just really historic stuff.
He knows his history.
Still not over that.
I think there are some theories that he says something about like a product no one wanted, and sort of some people are wondering if he means that in reference to himself. Okay. Will Boy Cavalier get got with the sheep's eye, which is something that, of course, you guys have talked about. But here's my hope for the eyeball jockey, as you like to call him, the eye Spidey, as I've been calling him in my notes.
We got the
she. I'm so
big
sorry.
Reveal.
Women
just out there killing it.
They can't have it all, including an eyeball socket.
I did not clock the gender of the critter right away. I do apologize. First of all, do we know she's evil? Is my question about the eyeball.
As far as I'm concerned, she was living her life, captured, enslaved, put into a tank, and made a freak. I have no evidence to suggest that she's done anything wrong.
We don't know that she killed the cat. We know that she embodied the cat.
Yeah.
Right? But maybe the cat was already dead. We don't know that. We don't know that she killed Shmuel, because we meet Shmuel in this episode already inhabited, but we don't watch how he died. So that's a question that I have.
I feel like the eyeball jockey, my inference is that the eyeball jockey can't take over a dead brain.
Great point.
Like
what
brain,
about
like
a dying brain?
The synapses have
What
to be
about a dying
brain? I think is probably fair game. Yeah.
We're going to talk about it a little bit more detail, but there's a moment inside of this episode where she knocks on the glass.
Yes, to distract.
Mallory's interpretation was to distract. My interpretation was to warn. I thought she was like, hey, what's going on with that's my interpretation, is that she's like, check out what's happening.
Oh, I thought
right
it was like, this is definitively the moment to like distract, to ensure Blood Slug can shit the ass ticks into the water, and like then we can all break free.
I'm not sure that I agree with that, because of the later antagonistic
with the xenomorph
eyeball versus xenomorph. So I don't know that she's on the side of the monsters.
Well, you're assuming that the xenomorph and the blood slugs are on the same team.
Yeah, I know, exactly.
Yeah.
Who
I
knows?
think they might all be like, we can unite with each other, but not the xenomorph, and that's one more way to cement that it's this like utter apex, not to say the word predator when predators, of course, are also opposed to the xenomorph. Excuse me, for all the alien versus predator heads out there. But yeah, like I like the idea actually that like Blood Slug and Eyeball Jockey and maybe Flora Fauna thingy like would team up with each other, but never with the xenomorph, because that is like the ultimate foe. That I think would be fun, but it's certainly.
I like the idea of her being like, excuse me, have you noticed that the slugs are getting out and are about to shit little ticks into your water? Have you noticed that?
That's the thing, that the delicacy of the tap did seem a little bit like, I'm with you, Jill. Like I read it on first watch as a warning. I don't know how to change that interpretation given all that we know now over the rest of the episode, but it did kind of feel that way a little bit.
And so on the sheep's eye front, by the way, the sheep's eye a phrase, an antiquated phrase I love, which just means to like look longingly and lovingly at someone, give them the sheep's eye. So the fact that like the sheep's eye is looking malevolently at everyone is interesting, but most malevolently at Boy, which I think is right? That she is clocking who is the shittiest person in the room. There's that great shot of Boy's face reflected in the glass and one half shaded, so it's just eye to eye sort of looking. I'm wondering if in the rule of like Chekhov's whatever, if having seen her operate a body kind of shittily in the way that she did with Shmuel, but she's constantly learning, is there a way in which she can inhabit a body and learn how to talk and people don't know? And is there any way in which she could run Boy Cavalier's body? I just will say Samuel Blinken has quite wide eyes, quite bulgy eyes.
You're saying it's good real estate.
I'm just saying there's a lot of socket for her to inhabit there. And if she, like the alien in Independence Day, learns how to manipulate the vocal cords in order to make language happen and could pass, I think that would be fascinating.
I mean, it definitely felt like we got the, I believe the subtitles were guttural squawking.
Yeah.
Horrifying. Genuine nightmare fuel.
What a thrill.
To like make Shmuel's body make that sound. So yeah, that feels like a nice bridge to eventually being able to form words and sentences. I think that the technique of entering the head cavity through the eye always leaves a bit of a mark.
I know. She needs to learn to clean up after herself, or maybe Boy starts wearing sunglasses inside. Who would say no? You know?
Absolutely. I mean, there's absolutely no doubt that if Boy started walking around with sunglasses, people would be like, Boy decided to start walking around with sunglasses.
Yeah.
She's like, no shoots, yes. No shoes, yes, sunglasses. That's how I live my life. Okay.
Yeah.
Almost done here. Last but not least, will Joe having an artificial lung help him survive a chest burster attack? Because, of course, we're quite worried that Slightly obviously has his sights set on Joe as the person he wants to shove in front of an egg.
Yep. Sure.
Could, we know the mechanic by which the chest burster, works. What if it goes down the esophagus into the mechanical lung? What will that do?
I'm going to be honest. This is a moment for reflection for all of us watching Alien Earth. Until this second, I had always kind of assumed that the little chest burster embryo went into your stomach.
I think it
it was more of a stomach burster than a chest burster.
And we saw it burst out of his old lung in the tank.
It's true.
Yeah. I mean, in Covenant, we see one come out of a back. Like, I kind of feel like they'll I kind of read it as like they were using the lung because the lung was injured, so they had human tissue that they could test. But so, yeah, I think it could go in the other lung, it could go in the stomach. I do wonder, though, if you're right that will have some impact on either the capacity to, like, gestate and explode, or if maybe just, like, would it be less interested in him to start with, but Slightly like shoves it in front and he's like, there's an artificial lung in there. I don't want it. I'm going to hold off because I'm pretty sure that Kirsch is going to bring Boy in like 10 minutes and then I'll have a better fully organic option.
I will say my number one candidate to get a face hugger before the end of the season is Arthur. Arthur seems like
that's all like a lock.
The most primed.
See, he seems like a big slug candidate to me. That dude's going to get... If I've ever seen a man who's about to get slugged, it's Arthur.
Mm-hmm.
I think Arthur could also just be like a hybrid could take Arthur out. Like Arthur could be undone by his own work and his kind of like failure to properly. He has this very like pure relationship to the work still. And like we talked about, it's like, well, what do you think you're bringing into the world exactly? Yeah. So that undoing Arthur in some way, or maybe that's what happens to Dame Sylvia. Obviously, we've been primed for that already. Very interesting. We still what is the flora fauna gonna do? Like we have gotten on the flash forward fronts. I mean, we still have the utter horror of the floating doll's head in our future. Yeah. Can't wait for that. I'm sure I'll be fine. But the bloody
tentacle.
The bloody prongs of the flora fauna, I just hope the bunnies are okay and that's not about the bunnies. I need that to be a person.
Okay. The bunnies
I'm sorry.
Are not going to be okay.
Sorry.
Last but not least, I agree with everything you all have said about like Wendy thinking she's a chosen one, even though like you guys think it's just a sort of mechanical reason why she can hear the aliens. That being said, this particular little Xeno baby came from her brother's lung. Mm-hmm. And there is a thing about like the way in which the xenomorph creations kind of adopt what they come out of.
Yeah, sure.
So is there a way in which the fact that she comes from Joe DNA make that connection, which is incidental to begin with, actually something else now that this has happened? Do you know?
That would be very much in keeping, because that would be what, her like niece? So that would be very much in keeping with like the Alien Resurrection canon.
Or just like Alien. I was just thinking about like Alien 3 when like
with the dog.
Yeah, the dog. Yeah.
Yeah. And then but the combo of like the dog and then the everything in 4 in Resurrection, which is basically like the actual DNA bond that like heightens that connection. But it does that wouldn't to your point, like it wouldn't give us the full clarity of how she initially, when she first gets to the ship site, the crash site, is hearing. But maybe if that unlocks something further, because it's like family, that would be
well, we know
interesting.
Xenomorphs, when you hear your family. Okay, sorry.
Exactly. I love it.
If Hermit is already unkillable and the xenomorph is already the perfect killing machine, is a xenomorph that comes out of Hermit the true like peak of existence? Like, is that really the strongest being to ever exist?
A xenomorph with not just literal physical armor on its body, but also the plot armor that has been gifted to
just
our
layers
Joe.
of it.
Wow. How acidic is the blood under the plot armor if you manage to pierce it?
It's a great question.
What would that burn through?
It's a great question.
Space-time continuum?
I was really struck. I revisited Aliens last night in theaters. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
Truly a magical experience. How many moments in Aliens are dependent on elevators being super slow, which then made me very angry at the absolute ridiculous speed of Hermit's elevator usage and the fastest elevator doors I've ever seen.
Am I incorrect? Did the xenomorph learn how to operate the elevator later?
Of course.
She roll up in the elevator later?
Don't worry about it.
I just am impressed.
Honestly, there's only like 2 buttons. It can figure it out. The queen can figure it out.
You think there's only 2 buttons in an elevator at a Prodigy high rise?
Yeah, it's like I was invited to the fancy Louis XIV party or I wasn't. Those are the 2 buttons, basically.
I thought you were talking about the Aliens alien, in which, again, an alien successfully manages to traverse an elevator.
That's true.
I will say on the Hermit front, obviously we know from the first episode that it's a lock. It's a wrap on Zavari. So it's not like we're like expecting Zavari to make it through unscathed for long. We know what's going to happen in front of the sealed mother chat room door. But multiple escapes that completely defied credulity to me. Like, so that actually made some of Hermit's escapes less absurd to me. I'm like, I'm sorry, but how is she outrunning the xenomorph in this hallway? That's like nuts.
She's driven by grief and
horniness.
And horniness.
Exactly. And she's like, I really know these hallways and these hatches because I fucked in every inch of this ship.
It's true.
You're right. You brought me back.
When she went spiraling down that pole or down that ladder or whatever, it's
she'd done it before, folks.
They've been here.
Zavari, I will say, though she does, outrun a xenomorph, she also doesn't do it. I will just say, actually, I'll just save it for our sort of like bigger look at this episode. But anyway.
Are we doing a bigger look at this episode?
Thank you for indulging me in Joanna. Missed you guys for several weeks.
We missed you.
But we should probably talk about episode 5.
Incredible stuff. Just sensational. All of it. We got a literary corner. We got a theory corner. Any Wig Watch takes while we're at it to just like accent corner?
I mean, on the Nana front, Dame Sylvia's hair, I think that's a great comp for what is happening to the wig situation there. It's shaggy. Quite shaggy.
Oh, man. Great stuff. Okay. That was magical. Thank you, Joe. Should we get to the episode 5 deep dive?
Let's do it.
Okay, guys. We got a mini Alien movie smack dab in the middle of this season of television. We were speculating that we would get more Imagino flashback insight at some point. Had no idea that we would be getting this entire standalone episode, so that was a treat. Couple kind of like big picture prompts before we get into some of our character insights on the Morrow front. the boy was actually the one sparking the sabotage front. Obviously, we will be going through every single death and deciding which is the worst. Pan back. Look at the Maginot from the outside. Imagine you're in the cold vacuum of space. How did episode 5 function for you as a space-bound, ship-bound, we're trapped in this vessel horror story that is ultimately like more akin to what we are accustomed to seeing in much of the rest of the franchise than the bulk of this season has been so far? Like, how did this work as a mini-movie horror installment? Let's start there.
I think pretty spectacularly. There are some exceptions. There are some moments in which the xenomorph really looks like a guy in a suit, and the CGI gets a little bit shaky as the xenomorph is rounding some corners. Other than that, I think it's like a pretty like lights out, self-standing type of story, to the point that I would appreciate it even if it didn't have the plot revelations, even if it didn't have all of these other tentacles that are stretching outwards to the other parts of the story. I just thought it was like, I thought the suspense was well played. I think the characters, for the most part, are really quickly established. It's not without the occasional wrong foot, but hard to ask for more of like a full cast, at least most cast, excepting Morrow, changeover for one episode than something like this. Like, this is exactly what I want from this kind of episode.
Joe?
I hate to like come on the pod after you guys have spent weeks being like, this is like, and I agree that like so much of the show has been so good. I think it's really tough to try to do something that so closely mirrors a perfect film that is Alien. We're in the Maginot, which is designed to look just like the Nostromo. We have done a lot of comps with various characters. So like you're really swinging for the fences in terms of like what you're trying to achieve here. And in terms of having just rewatched, not on the big screen, but having just rewatched Alien and Aliens over the weekend, like the thing that Alien has time for, which even with 10 extra minutes on the runtime of this episode, an episode of television doesn't have time for, is a bit more relationship information to make it matter when these people die. And just time for suspense. I think without question, to me, the lights out sequence of this episode is Chiriboga fucking up in the lab, just because there's so much time for her to be like eating her sandwich and spilling her water and doing all this stuff. And I was just thinking about inside of Alien, there's just like a lot of sequences where people are walking around and we're freaking the fuck out at home because we know that they're fucked, but we don't know when or how exactly it's going to happen. And so that all worked. That really worked for me. I would have loved more of that, but I don't know how you can do that inside of an hour necessarily. And then on the relationship front, you guys have had some really interesting conversations about Arthur and I guess I'll call her Dame because we're on a first name basis. Or Joe and Wendy, this idea of like you're missing a little bit of the connective tissue in some of these established relationships. And so I was thinking a lot about that in terms of like Noah Hawley's bigger oeuvre of work and like what he does really, really well and what he sort of slightly stumbles on. And I think that idea of like established relationship, Fargo and Legion are such mannered shows. Like no one is behaving like an actual human in those shows. There are human moments, but there's that sort of very affected patter in both of those shows. So this idea of like quickly establishing history between people, which Alien does
seamlessly
on a masterpiece level. Yeah. And here they're like, Morrow wakes up and they're like, the captain's dead. They say it with like such little care. And
nobody attends the space funeral.
And I went back and like rewatched the opening thing and I'm like, I don't have any, this guy isn't like an absolute asshole. Like, why does no one care that the captain's dead? And I know this is a science operation versus like the space truckers of Alien, but like the way they feel about Dallas in Alien, the way in which these relationships work for each other. We're mimicking this with the people talking over each other at the kitchen table sort of vibe that they did both in the premiere and in this episode without actually landing it. And so like I'm missing yes, we know about like people being horny together and stuff like this, but like, and we get sort of like a dropping of the soil moment, but like, I'm not feeling like the loss and the pain and the anguish and the connection. I'm feeling like people being bad at their jobs and incompetent. I'm feeling that. So anyway, visually
an Alien classic.
I mean,
very
these
good.
people are morons.
Visually very cool. Some further great stuff for our guy Morrow. Just incredible stuff. But at the same time, I feel like I'm getting a lot of background download via like letters that I have to freeze frame and read, which is not my ideal sort of way in which to get information about someone. So I'm a little less high on this episode than I've been on other episodes this season, but I also just think he just set himself like kind of an impossible task. But there's a lot to like really, really relish inside of this episode. That's right.
On the relationship front, I was like, I was pretty stumped by the moment when Morrow and Petrovich finally are facing off, and we get a line that is literally Petrovich, right? And I was like, wait, do they not know each other? And then I was rewatching the Maginot scenes in episode 1, and this was like, I did not understand that this was what was happening in the premiere. And now it seems clear that they're like shifts, basically, right? These shift changes. So it's like, okay, maybe some of these people have not actually even over 65 years encountered each other much, spent much time together. But for the people who have, being able to better understand like what their relationship is, because even if it's just a mission and it's a job and everybody's there for their shares, and we get that, nice moment between Shmuel and Malachite where he's basically like, that's actually what they're paying you for, like not the work, right?
Your life.
A quarter share for 65 years of your life, and then you go back and say like, let me have some more. Those moments were great because you have like the wisdom of an old head basically, who's like, and then the guy, he's like, I thought I was here for rocks, and I don't know what an apprentice is, but I am one. Those I thought worked effectively, but there were some other moments that maybe didn't hit quite as well on the relationship front. I thought that this was like, as an installment in the horror genre action thriller canon, pretty good and pretty fun and riveting. And like, I thought that the fact that we had actually seen either through a flash forward, these glimpses, like we had seen the glimpse, for example, of Tang looking up and screaming. We know that something's getting him from above before we've seen it. We know from Hermit and Co. passing through the med bay earlier in the season that there's something foul on the GI tract inside of our guy Malachite. We know that not just that Rahim and Chiriboga are going to die when we see them in that exact setup in that room, but we know like it's from a toxin. We had gotten that information. So we know, we had seen obviously Morrow refuse to grant Zaveri entrance into the room, etc. We know so many of the things that are going to happen. And so I think because of that, it's like in an Alien story, you sort of know what's going to happen always. Terrible things. Everybody's going to get mauled. They're all going to die. We knew specifically the room or the location in which many of these people died. We knew how it was going to happen. And I thought that despite that it was so tense and taut that I was pretty impressed, like by the level of horror that was dialed up through basically like the fact that we felt helpless because we knew the outcome already, right? There was something extra, I thought, intense about that actually in a kind of surprising and interesting way. It's like the fact that we knew we were watching not just a horror story, but an active like a treatise on incompetence, on hubris, on mistakes that we know are inevitable, added a degree, I thought, of intrigue.
Completely. I think that stuff works too, Mal, because I'm totally on the same page as you are, Joe, as far as like the emotional grounding of a lot of these relationships like isn't up to the standard of the best Alien moments in movies. But the terror is there in part because these new creations, the blood slug and the eyeball jockey, are legit terrifying. And they have done enough to kind of set the stage for what they can do while leaving open some possibility of what they've already done, that it pulls you into wanting to see how they end up dismantling this crew, basically. Like, with all of these dangerous creatures on board, not just the xenomorph, what the hell happens to all these people?
So let's build off that into something else I wanted to ask you guys, which is basically about placement. Both the fact that we got, obviously we had seen scenes on the Maginot, but that we get this as like a standalone episode, but also that we get it in the middle of the season. And then also that the stretch of story that we're accessing is basically how the aliens killed the humans, right? That's what we're treated to here and what a treat it was. But what we don't get is any insight into how they acquired the specimens in the first place. And given the variety on the specimen front, that would have been...
Someone got some worms in their eyeball. We do know that happens.
But listen, I need more than my girlfriend got bug eggs in her eyes to accept betraying your fellow man and dooming the entire planet.
You need more than
Sorry,
that?
Petrovich.
I'm actually wondering... And I presumably, perhaps in the future, we asked Noah Hawley about this, but I'm wondering if there were things that were cut from this, like if this is ever even longer, because I really felt like holes in the like Enzo Cilenti, who's been on Game of Thrones, but was like incredibly good on Jonathan Strange and Dr. Norrell, like that, Mr. Norrell, that. Like, he is a great performer. And so to put him in the Petrovich role is great. But I just felt like we didn't get enough. And then also, Tang being creepy over that girl is something that I'm just sort of like, feels unresolved in a way that doesn't even feel like that interesting. Like, why was that there other than as a red herring creep? I don't know. Like, I don't know.
I guess like the payoff of him knowing that one of the cryopods was empty because he's always creeping on them.
Yeah,
fair enough.
Yeah.
There was just like some
the
moments where I was
stalkers are
like,
the real heroes, Joe.
Yeah, great point. I was like, was there more Tang stuff? Was there more Petrovich stuff? Was there more stuff inside of this episode? And they were like, no, we can only give you 10 extra minutes to pad out this episode. Yeah. This isn't the 5th season of Sons of Anarchy. You don't get 2 hours to do this. So,
well, Joe, so would you have do you think there's a version that would have worked where we had gotten maybe flashbacks stitched throughout the entire season, and obviously that deprives us of something as like utterly focused and contained as this entire let's watch all the people die episode, but perhaps what it unlocks is a little bit more time with each of the characters, or exploration and other aspects of the timeline, whether it's the acquiring of the specimens, or if we go back even further, what did Donnie know and when? What did Morrow know and when? Like, where are you guys on that part of this? Do you feel like you have every bit of information that you need? Do you still have questions on that? We got a lot of like little sprinklings of information about what did this research vessel think they were setting out to do that kind of like further cement what we already believed we understood, which was that they like were heading out for this purpose and knew-ish what they were going to get. I think we still all collectively have questions about what that means basically for the wide swath of alien canon coherence. But would you have been interested in actually learning more of that? Do you think that might still be to come? Was there a way to give us that without it ballooning into a 2-hour episode in the middle of the season? What do you think about that, like structurally, but also in terms of the story insights?
And I would say I would not be opposed to a 2-hour episode. Like, we're going to do an alien movie in the middle of this season.
Or to start it. Like, I think there's a version of this season that opens, if you'll pardon the spoilers for Silo, if you haven't seen Silo, the sort of
we've seen Silo.
Start with one cast, kill off almost the entire cast, and then like turn it over as we're kind of changing over the set of characters. You could almost open the season with a full-length movie and then go into a season if you wanted to.
I hope you know, Rob, that I do have Silo in my notes because the ink spots are used, and we talked about the ink spots being the creepiest music you could play inside of a
as we know
episode. I think that I was thinking about this, Mallory. I was like, how would I fix this? And Rob's idea is an interesting one. I was thinking of like, would it have been interesting to have a cold open with the Maginot every week? We spend a scene with the Maginot. We care more about them. And so then when we finally get to what happened to these people that we care about, that payoff feels even more juicy. Because it's less like, how did A get to be like Agatha Christieing this shit and figuring out like how it all happened, and more like, who did it all happen to? And like the why is the same answer as it always is in an alien franchise, which is people are smart and dumb at the same time. But I just, I was thinking about that. But I do like this placement in the middle of the season. But to answer your larger question, Mallory, there is more information that we can glean. But also, like, we're talking about like, does Boy Cavalier make it to the end of the season? Does, do all of the Lost Boys, blah, blah, blah. But like, presumably they want to do several seasons of this show. So I don't mind there being mystery, especially on the like corporate espionage side, that we find out more about who knew what, when, and what the mission was. But I was shocked by the fact that they're using the word xenomorph on the ship here, because I will say the Reddit boards have been tying themselves in knots for weeks to try to figure out how to make it work in continuity, that Weyland-Yutani would know about the xenomorphs before.
Has anyone surfaced an answer other than like someone is crunching Alien versus Predator tape? Because that's the story in the canon chronology that comes first, like before the Maginot took off. That's it.
Yeah, I
don't know that they went out looking for the xenomorph explicitly, but we do know that
they were looking for life of some sort that would grant. But then how do they know that? I was really struck by that too, Joe. Saying xenomorph aloud, I was like, wait. That felt huge.
I took that as like, this is a term that they have kind of like loosely, maybe even coined, or maybe it's just like a loose term that they use to apply to a certain class of alien that they encounter, period. But we know that they've lost a couple crew members already in seizing the eggs, in rounding up the eggs. I would assume that to mean they have already encountered some fully grown xenomorph previously. To the point that they've seen that thing, they know to be scared of it, they might know some of what it's capable of. But otherwise, they're kind of flying blind. And maybe in the Weyland-Yutani sense, this is sort of the beginning of an obsession as far as like, okay, now we need to go out again and send ship after ship to try to find these monsters out in, the far reaches of space again.
So do you think Bronsky, that piece of shit Bronsky, who they go out of the way to say he was a bad dude without ever explaining why?
What? He's a bad guy. What did he do?
What did he do?
Nope.
I want to know.
But Bronsky's our science officer, right? So is he the one who named the xenomorph?
Chiriboga's definitely not the lead science officer. I don't know what she was deputized from.
I also have questions about
lead sandwich officer.
I also have questions about like having a casual
lead swell bottle officer.
Having a casual Sammy in the lab when the captain just died and like someone else is in cryo with a facehugger on that. Like, what are our priorities? What are we doing?
You can't clear the Google account every time someone dies on the Maginot. Come on. The only counter I have, Rob, because I think, yes, it's reasonable to assume based on we lost a lot of men that they have faced many horrors, including potentially a xenomorph. There was the like, wait, how big can this thing get? Exchange, which pointed to maybe like a little less active familiarity. I also thought that one of the interesting maybe like bits of like a counterweight to, okay, they said xenomorph, what do they know when, was just like, they think that putting this thing in cryo is going to work, and it's not. So there's obviously like a cap on the specific knowledge about what happens with these specimens in various states and various forms. So that was interesting. We get a lot of just sort of like thematic textual pursuit cover with what is ultimately like the thesis of this exercise when Rahim is explaining to Clem why Yutani or why anyone would want these specimens. It's power, right? It's always about power. You got 5 big corporations that control everything, right? But our guys want to be on top. So they send us out to collect the most terrifying shit so they can use it to take over. Now, when the Maginot set out, the 5 was not a thing. There were not 5 corporations. I guess that same logic holds in full, though, if you're talking about the triumvirate, like the same, in theory, need to dominate your foes, either of the moment or future foes would exist. But then just everything Morrow says, like, and we've parsed similar lines in other episodes, but we got many here. I'm responsible for getting this cargo back to Earth intact. Those instructions from the company are crystal clear whether or not the crew survives. You talk to the computer. My orders are from Yutani herself. Nothing matters but the cargo. Not you, not me, not the fucking cat. Extremely rude. And then I told her I'd bring the specimens home, and I will. Now, in theory, they could be communicating on the ship about what specifically they found. That doesn't necessarily tell us that detailed, go out for these things and bring these things home mandate came 65 years ago. So there's still room to wonder and speculate.
I love that he's like, I've got a direct line to Yutani. And then like when he gets back home and he's talking to her, she's like, oh, you knew my grandma. And I'm like, oh boy, you have not talked to anyone on Earth.
Granny Yutani.
For
that
decades.
direct line's been dead for a while.
Yeah. No, I love... I was like, oh, they just tweeted it out. You just said it. The thing that like Ash was so careful to conceal from people. We just told everyone on the Maginot, and and maybe that's how we learned on the Nostromo. First of all, these are not science officers, and secondly, like Ash, don't tell them that they're expendable. It didn't work out last time, so let's try this instead. And here's my main note for Weyland Yutani, other than like be less evil, please, is like what is your vetting process for who you send on these missions?
Because, it's pretty low.
Because like
it's
the Nostromo, like that was not their job. So like they're like, we're out of our depth, we're long haul truckers, like that's what we're supposed to be doing. The Maginot, like all of these people should be top tier. Send your best people right on this mission with love and respect. Don't send Clem, don't send Malachite, and don't send Chibuzo. Like, do not send her on this mission. What is like, she can't even fucking close a specimen jar? What are we doing here in the lab at all?
Also, make sure the glass doesn't break.
That's fixable. Like that you should really have a handle on.
By Aliens, it takes much more to break some glass in Aliens.
I do think there's a balance here, though, between the people who are truly essential are probably not being sent on 60-year missions. And so it's like there's a degree of expendability
who can you
in
get
terms of
to
the people
away?
They're sending out on these things. Like if they're really that important, I think you keep them pretty close. And maybe that in itself says something about Yutani's adopted relationship with Morrow, too.
I think like the extent of the on-board experimentation is the puzzler in that respect. Because if everybody is like utterly expendable, it's go, get, bring back. Then we play.
Never unlock
true.
a single case.
I do not need you to at any point explain the red and green panels because you were not touching the panels after you locked them in the first place.
It should be a one-use. Screw-on, lock in place does not get unlocked.
Glue it
you know?
That's
Weld
Seal it. Weld
Absolutely.
it. Exactly. An eyeball jockey with a rudimentary understanding of physics will not be able to swing with its shocking wingspan and shatter this glass.
The freaking blood slug figured it out. Oh my God. The blood slug being able to be like,
I mean, they're brilliant. They are.
Was tough.
And waiting, like biding time to wait. Okay, the droplets of water coming down the side. Now I know this is the moment I can pounce. There's a substance here that
also,
I can excrete into.
This dum-dum is so distracted watching one of us feast on this dead rat that I have time.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody's eager for entertainment.
Don't take out multiple specimens at one time. Like, keep it locked up. If you got to take it out. I think the one exception to this is over that timeline, they don't quite know what's going to happen to these aliens that are being presumably like deprived of food or resources or whatever they need. So it might be like, study them while you can because you don't know if they're going to last 60 years.
That seems clear. It just leaves them vulnerable to their own stupidity.
Oh, yes.
But also that's how we get television shows and movies.
I don't know that I understand the changeover idea of because it seems like there's teams on changeover.
Yes.
But we're not in the cryo sleep sort of, it's 65 years. We're not aging 30 years on this trip.
No.
I took this to be like many kind of space travel movies where it's like time is passing differently on Earth than people who are in this sort of space. So it's like they're not aging that much.
But they're gone 65 years on Earth and not
Earth
that long
time,
on this.
Yeah.
Like, because my idea of cryosleep is usually like you're just preserved for those years and you take a nap during the flight. But if they're constantly up and down in 50-50 shifts, which is what it seems like is the arrangement here, then they're awake half of the journey. They're not just like snoozing.
I think they also might be like sleeping for 8 months and working 2 days and then going back in cryo kind of a thing, possibly.
Yeah. Check, make sure everything's working.
Yeah.
I don't think someone is awake at all times.
But not feed the critters for 8 months?
Fuck on an egg crate.
Oof.
Well, right. They only been deprived of food for 2 weeks, we heard, right? So, yeah.
What's the shift change on the Maginot? That's a question I have.
We have a lot we need to learn.
We have all of these questions about the timeline and how it's passing and who knows what when. I just want to say Malachite is a tremendously dumb man.
It's a very stupid kid.
But they give him a lot of shit in episode 1 for not knowing his social studies about the rise of the Five as opposed to the Triumph. And it's like,
but he's been gone for all of it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, you expect him to know every coming and going on Earth when he hasn't been there?
I mean, he maybe should be like reading. I mean, clearly we know Petrovich is directly in communication with Boy Cavalier, but also like he's the one in episode 1 who's like youngest trillionaire ever. And that's like AI and synths and stuff, right? I mean, I don't know. I'm definitely not secretly in touch with him plotting our demise. But also like, you get the impression that just like they're sending communication logs to their loved ones or receiving letters. Like they could be like reading a newspaper or like, like they could be learning, I guess. And Malachite's like, no, the only thing I'm going to learn is how to properly douse my lo mein in hot sauce so that I don't
space Cholula.
I find myself so overcome. I need to drink the Aztec juice. Like A lot of lessons for Malachite. Ultimately, he died, and so did everyone else than Morrow. On the Morrow front, what did you guys think about the history we learned, like that he was with Yutani since he was a kid with a palsied arm? I was really struck by that parallel to the Lost Boys, right? Yeah. Like, obviously, it's not a one-to-one. There's something different about it, but the idea of this tech oligarch saying, oh, let me like help improve your circumstances. Let me take you in. Let me give you a home. Also, by the way, I'm going to make you a cyborg now, and then you're going to go on my missions and get what I need, right? And, you know, the idea that you are like being granted this new opportunity and this second chance at a different life, but also that you are instantly a tool for this pursuer of power. What did that insight about Morrow's history, and also, of course, everything that we learned about his history with his daughter Estelle, who, you know, we knew when he got back on Earth, he was like, I've got no ties here. My family, my friends, they're all dead. It's just the mission. You're my mission. It's just the mission for me. But then we learn it's not just the passage of time. Like, Estelle died in a fire and he was like horrible.
Doing it. He was doing it all for her, is the idea, right? He's doing it all for her so she can go to school. Free school. Not that dust heap Harvard where they...
It's not cheap, though.
Where they learn whatever they want. We're going to go to Corpo school where we have like a very strict curriculum. But like
I did like that even in the year 2120, people are still going to school near Boston, you know, in the broader Boston area.
But the idea that like he, you know, surely either Mallory and I will ask Babou Ceesay about this in the interview that you'll hear at the end of this episode, which went really well. It went great.
It was great. Don't
worry about it. But like,
is that a dispatch from Space Joe and Space Mal?
Yeah,
they've been out. The passage of time is just different in those interviews.
Don't worry about it. But I think that like this idea that he was doing it all for her, that's the idea. And they had to transfer that. It can't be meaningless. She dies at 19. He sacrificed his entire life with her. Right. So now he has to ascribe meaning to something. So when he says in an earlier episode, this is my life's work, right? It's like, this becomes I was doing it all for X. Now, sad that I was doing it all for X is the evil deeds of an evil corporation, but, you know, needs must to justify our own existence. But I think that this idea of the technocrats giveth and the technocrats taketh away, like this idea of like, we'll give you the arm and here's Pinocchio, all the strings attached to it. Like, we'll give you a lung hermit, but here are all the strings attached to it, but we'll bill you for it later if you want us to. So like this idea of like the rise of the technocrat and the idea of like these absolute assholes who have created technical innovation, but the control that they demand that comes with that. And I like that is existent across all of the five, surely, because they're all, you know, cut from the same cloth. So.
Yeah, I thought this was really interesting to like have this insight that Morrow, like presumably many of the people who opt into some sort of experience like this are like, this will help my family, or this is what I can do with this share, X, Y, Z, right? I can give my daughter an opportunity she wouldn't have had otherwise. But also then the fact that we have this insight that his relationship with Yutani predates that. Mm-hmm. Like, it made me think anew of the exchange that he had with Slightly in episode 4 about the idea of loyalty and like the terrible things people do because of the loyalties that they possess. And that, like, you know, on the one hand, when everything we watch him do on this ship is like pretty unflinching, right? He's not really having too many moments where he's like, I mean, he doesn't have a single moment where he says anything other than this is the thing we need to prioritize at all costs, no matter what it means for other people. It's only then later when he's staring at Smee and Slightly and looking at the literal wreckage around them that he's like, would you have done this? Like the things that I did, and it's tearing him up, and he is kind of like, the guilt fills the vacuum because there's nothing else there anymore, right? The mission isn't there. It's now a new mission. And in that little space in between, that shift into, okay, here's the next phase of this task, he can feel that this was wrong, the thing that he did. And that's kind of, I'm curious then, like, well, where can that lever move at all as he is now looking at slightly, presumably thinking not just of his kid, but of an earlier version of himself, and thinking about what it felt like when someone else used him and made him do things. Right. Even just like the little line in the letter about Estelle, like, her effects are waiting for you. Like, is he going to go find those? And then what will that do? Will seeing his daughter's possessions like pull him back into some sort of heightened sense of humanity? Is that possible? Or is that not the story we're watching? You know,
I'll tell you what that's going to do, Mal. It's going to fuck me up if he goes through a box of his daughter's effects.
How long does a box of raisins last, is my question.
Great question.
An unlimited amount of time.
The pacifier on the fingers he was reading the letters was like
tough.
A diabolical touch.
Wow, the ink spots saying we'll meet again.
Very painful.
This is why I think some of the emotion of this episode did work for me. Not all of the ingrained crew stuff, but Morrow's backstory.
Yeah. I thought the Morrow stuff was great.
Morrow just always works. Like, that's the thing. It's like, Babou Ceesay is just like absolutely crushing this
he's
whole thing.
Excellent on this show. And this is where, you know, in our larger conversation about like, should you have parceled out the flashback? Should you have started the season with more Maginot stuff? The two most effective characters, I think, this season by far are Morrow and Boy Cavalier. And Kirsch. I would say that trio have really, really hit.
Yeah.
And so I like the sort of slow parceling of Morrow's story that we're getting here and how it's teaching us new things about this character. And if you had seen too much of his life before this or heard about too much of his life before, would you interpret all of his actions in a different way? Like, I love the mystery of who that character has been. And then you get these moments of, again, this is just like a trope that gets under my skin for some reason. This like passage of time being different in space, the old Interstellar, the old, like, I think Voices of a Distant Star was the first time I ever encountered it. It's like there's something so human about the idea that you are focused on something and you blink and years passed. And it's like, what if we sci-fi that shit and make it extra tragic? And oh, by the way, your daughter died. I find it to be really, really effective. And I think giving this character who's already kind of had stolen the lifeblood of this show in a lot of ways, this much meat to work with, that part of it really worked for me.
I really agree. And I think if I were to ask for Maginot flashbacks, like cold opens throughout the seasons, it would not be Morrow that needed more of our time at all. Right. That's not what was necessary, I think.
Right. Every episode should open with Bronsky and Zaveri fucking in a different corner
location,
of the ship, is what we're saying. I do think I love that idea of the episode's opening with the flashback. I do think if I'm Noah Hawley, I'm probably like, I can't resist making just an alien movie in the middle.
I understand it.
You get it.
This episode written and directed by Noah Hawley, like that for the credits to roll on this, and it's like written by Noah Hawley, directed by Noah Hawley, created by Noah Hawley. It's just like, how could he not?
Let's chat for another few minutes here about Petrovich and Boy and this reveal, because we had been speculating that everybody felt sure that a saboteur was in the mix. Our guy, Malachite, what's a saboteur? Is that a French word? And then Shmuel, bad Frenchman. I just need like hours and hours with those two and Raheem, who I thought was like amazing. What
old Dr. Shaky Hands? Old Doctor, I'm sober, but the flask is here, loaded, and ready to go.
I just happen to have a flask, and I'm going to take a swig.
Can we not put a goddamn mask on for surgery, please?
Dude, they should have been in full on. That's in my list of like dumb, inexplicable things people did in this episode, which is like 80% Chibuzo. But then I was like, let's get some other characters in here too.
Yeah.
Why are they not wearing protective gear? I just didn't understand that. That actually didn't make sense.
I mean, having seen Prometheus, I will say a full helmet will not stop you if an alien wants inside. But
you can try.
If you know how the face hugger works, why are we not trying any kind of face shield situation?
Like,
you know
Morrow
what I mean?
was watching. He's a security officer, and he's like, "What about contamination? What about containment?" Like, the doctors in the room aren't thinking about the risk of pulling the ass tick off. I just feel they should have said, I would not expect the mask, the goggles, the hazmat suit, any of it to work, but I do think they should have believed that it was important to put it on.
It's worth a shot. Do you think if like Shirley very bad at the game of Operation Dr. Shaky Hands, do you think if he had had a steadier grip on the tweezer, we would not have gotten the plume of toxic, you know?
I think that Baby Blood Slug, aka the Blood Slug ass tick, is emitting that plume no matter what, because I think it's just classic defense mechanism stuff. You're squeezing me, so BBS. I will plume.
Here's what I would do is here's what I do. Were it me. First of all, I would not be in either active alcoholism withdrawal or swinging from a flask. Yes. Secondly,
you would, though, as we've established on this pod, be a consultant for Weyland-Yutani, trying to shore them up on their business practices.
Be less evil. It's a pretty easy thing.
Yeah.
Would you not maybe try to urge the tick off of the living flesh of your crewmate and onto
give it an alternative
or something like that? Here, just kind of nudge it, in a certain direction,
like a blood-rich sponge.
This is a real thing.
Yeah.
You can coax a parasite out of human flesh with a steak. It's horrifying, but true.
I don't like knowing that, Rob.
I'm sorry.
It's awful. An awful thing that we've learned. Yeah, I think that would have been smart to try. This is you should be on the next mission to space.
So sorry. You were talking about Petrovich and Boy. We can talk about that.
What did you guys think ultimately of the reveal that this was Boy's doing? Because while we suspected that there was some sort of corporate sabotage afoot, I think, Rob, we had been speculating that maybe one of the other members of the Five, that this would be where they got involved, and it still seems like we will meet some members of Lynch or Dynamic, et cetera, because Boy has agreed to arbitration, and I'm sure that's really in good faith. And so presumably we'll spend some more time with the Five and the politics of it all next week.
If I don't get eyeball jockey attorney at law next week, I'm going to be pissed.
Shit.
Michael Clayton, but make it alien. Which Fargo cast members do you want to see cameo as the head of the other evil corporations?
It's got to be Ewan for me.
Oh,
let's get him in there
as twins.
As he's running all of the other major corporations.
Competing.
All the other
triplets.
Three.
It's triplets, and they're all run by A. Ewan McGregor. Okay,
I have no notes. Truly, that would be incredible. I think we basically thought it was not Boy because just of the time period.
Yeah.
But of course, that was not the case. I thought that was on the one hand, interesting and makes more sense for Boy to be centered. It kind of it sparks us to reassess his prior decisions in a new light. Oh, when he's agreeing to let the Lost Boys go into the field, for example, he knows exactly what he's doing. We can now think about all of that in a different way. Were you glad it was Boy? Would you have preferred it be someone else? Is it best to keep the story concentrated around Boy in this respect? Was your read that Petrovich, as a disgruntled member of the Maginot crew, was I need to go find somebody to send this information to, or that Boy made contact? How did he know what Yutani is doing? Is this why was so fascinated by glimpsing Wendy's hacking prowess with the HR bot? Because he's
also,
I love to hack.
Also, is Yutani not monitoring these calls?
Not closely, apparently.
How does Boy have a direct line to a Weyland-Yutani ship? Whether or not he was the person, I think it had to have been Petrovich seeking him out. Yes. I really think that's how the direction it had to go. But I cannot believe that there would be a communique between Petrovich, who can temporarily wipe some logs, but doesn't seem like he can
Mother recovered those in a jiffy.
Encrypt a call. Right. That Mother's not flagging this call to the competition. What's happening here?
Okay, so you guys think this is where we are right now?
Do you think it's because Boy used his feet to dial? And so,
yes, he held the iPad in his feet, and so it was blocked from anybody being able to detect it. That's why he takes his calls from his feet upside down in bed. Okay, so Petrovich is the bug laid eggs in my girlfriend's eyes. Not into it. Don't feel like this was a good use of my lifespan, quarter share or not. I've been reading about this impressive young trillionaire, youngest trillionaire ever. Since AI, I would like to ask him in exchange for this information to put my brain into a robot. That's what we think happened. And Boy was I'm interested.
Opportunism, and also kind of sensing the sort of desperation in each other, right? It's it's the new corporation and the young CEO of that corporation. That's the one you're kind of entreating and trying to sell on this prospect. And obviously for Petrovich, doesn't have a lot of alternatives. He is in, to me, fuck it mode. And he kind of lays that out. That it's not even really about the money or anything, or even the robot body. It's let me deliver these monsters that we have been sent out and that wiggled their way into my girlfriend's eyes. All of that seems pretty relatable. I am glad that it's Boy, in part because my preference is always deepen and complicate the relationships with the characters we know.
Economy of characters,
It's also why I'm kind of bummed that it's Petrovich, because who knows anything about this man?
Dude,
We've barely seen
Clem, speaking on behalf of every member of the audience, saying, wait, which one's Petrovich?
Seriously, which one? And he could have been a cool character.
So funny.
Like, I think, like, again, to varying degrees, the rest of this crew has been like at least given something, some character trait, some personality defect, whatever. We just don't know anything about this guy. And so the fact that he's the saboteur is not the most interesting development, even though I do like oh, wait, it was someone who was like waking up from their cryo sleep. That's a good twist. And the Who, less interesting.
Tang's bitchy delivery of like, just because, like God. All of that, pretty great. But also, here's my question
need more Tang.
About
I'm going to be honest.
This is my hot take, is that Tang is not working for me.
He's not working.
Too disinterested Zoomer for me. I just I'm not into it.
Like too creepy. Like, Ash and like David at least had like some Ash as a secret synth is its own thing, but like David like at least tried a bit. He wasn't
did
like
he?
Yeah.
Again, I ask you, did he?
I think he did. He wasn't freshening up his roots just for himself. He just had to put on his like, best appearance for people. I just want to go on record. I think, and I've said this before, Michael Fassbender touching up his roots while watching Lawrence of Arabia is maybe my number one favorite moment in the entire Alien franchise. Not my favorite Alien movie, but that is like my number one favorite moment. And like trying to talk like Peter O'Toole.
But unseated. It was number one until this episode, and now it's been unseated by your about to be the richest man in whatever cousin marrying shithole Valley you fuck cousin. Right? That's number one now?
Pretty excellent. Petrovich sneaking in and out of the cryo chamber is great. But yeah, I wish it had been a character that we knew literally anything about. And I was so surprised, like, by how quickly he went out. Like, I was expecting some sort of confrontation or whatever, but it was just
a monologue.
Like, he's
Come on,
here and he's
he
got
like
some
a couple
ideals.
lines out. Yeah, the blade through the torso. It's tough. What does this change about how you are viewing Boy's prior actions? Obviously something like you're kind of like giving him like a tiny bit of grace and credit. Like, well, at least he cares about the dead people. No, doesn't care about the dead. He turned that ship into a missile and then the missile into an arrow. I didn't quite understand why an arrow was scarier than a missile, but that's neither here nor there. Boy is like,
no, I don't know.
I love Postmates. I love DoorDash. Xeno-dash me these specimens right here to my front door.
He says, my kingdom.
My kingdom.
Yeah. Really
wild
good.
stuff. And
really
then
good.
that's also what Mal says when she orders DoorDash.
Yes.
Deliver straight to my kingdom,
of ice
please.
Cream to my kingdom. And then you've got the sweet fools like Arthur who are like distracted shiny ball, which as you guys noted, Boy, that is part of Boy's character, but like he knew what he was doing all along. He was seeking this out from the moment he received that first communique or sent the first communique. So what if anything, does this change about how you view his decisions?
I'm not a technocrat, but what I will say is that I understand like you always have to be trying to cut the competition off at the knee. If they are like making great strides in a direction, you need to get involved. But I also agree with Arthur when you've got deliverables that are like, en route or whatever. Like,
gotta ship on time.
You got to make that happen and not send your billion-dollar prototypes into a haunted ship full of monsters. Like, none of this makes sense to me from a like, I want this product to work sort of space. But
wants the conversation on the mountaintop with the child brain, doesn't want Yutani to have the most formidable creature in the universe.
If that winds up with an eyeball instead, if he's like, the only way I could do it is to have an eyeball conversation, eye to eye, like,
incredible.
He's really excited by how smart the eyeball is. And,
I mean, same.
As he should be.
We get it.
You know what? I was very impressed by how smart the blood slug was.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Little arm to unlatch the
brilliant
creatures. Come on.
I was stunned by this.
I will never recover from the in-water view of the
way it just like gushed
diarrhea
out.
Plume.
That was deeply upsetting.
Like gushed out.
I just can't.
Was so horrified. And then we had to just like watch that water bottle move around.
You could see that the design in the bottle was brilliant.
So you can see them swimming around.
Panes. You can see them swimming. So upsetting. This is a great transition into our next section, which is please pick the worst way to die. I'm going to quickly share with you as a refresher for everyone, including the bad babies listening, how everybody died. And then I'd like you guys to pick the worst and also share any other thoughts that you have about the fates that these poor sad saps met. Captain Dinsdale, acid burning through your throat as Raheem tries to cut a facehugger off of you.
Classic.
It's a classic
for
We've
a
been
reason.
there before. Very gross, lingering shot of the neck wound, and I appreciated Clem saying that he was nauseous and wanted to vomit.
Well, I do Dr. Shaky Hands, not great work from you, but it has been something that I've wanted people to do. And maybe they didn't do it because of the acid blood, but I'm just like, whenever the tendril wraps around and tightens around the throat, which is always like such a scary moment in an alien movie, I'm like, cut it off. Don't cut it off, as it turns out. But
do not.
The shot of Bronski after here's the dirt from your homeland, Utah, sprinkling ritual, the shot then of the tightening on the throat in the cryopod was very upsetting. Yeah. I love, too, on the comedy front when Raheem is starting to recount what happened with Bronski and is like, we. And Chibuza's like,
Chibuza's like, don't.
No. I'm going to be blamed for plenty. You take this one.
No.
Bronski, baby xenomorph bursting through the chest while you're in cryo, shortly after your girlfriend sprinkled that ritual dirt on your pod, and flashback to fucking you, and then in one of those visions, you had a facehugger on you.
That's what I'm going to say? Not that bad.
Yeah, peaceful, relatively speaking.
I think both
unconscious.
Both the captain and Bronski, it's over in a moment.
Easy outs.
Well, I mean, acid to the throat is not my ideal way to go. We don't know that he was
conscious for the acid in the throat thing.
I assume.
Once the facehugger's on you, I guess.
I guess he could have passed out for the asphyxiation could have gotten him by that point. But
I feel like it's tough for Captain Dinsdale that he's like, okay, there's a fire on my ship, and then boom. That's just a lot of panic in your final moments.
It's
Bronski
true.
was thinking about fucking his girlfriend in every crevice of that ship.
Nobody cares about Captain Dinsdale. Everyone else thinks Bronski's an asshole, but we don't know why. Again, these are relationship connections I would like to know more about.
It did allow for the great little wink of Shmuel being like, put them both in the airlock. Send him out the airlock. It's like, that's a classic alien move.
I did
see what you did there.
I did like the visual when she dumped the dirt on his cryo chamber and it made sort of a almost like a blood pattern on his chest before we got the actual chest burster. I thought that was a cool visual.
Great stuff.
From the dirt perspective, this is a very delicate piece of machinery that is keeping your ship boyfriend alive with an alien on his face. I don't want dirt getting in any part of this thing, especially if that's going to condense up,
could gunk up the mechanism.
It's just going to turn it to mud on the top of that.
I'll remember
that. A lot of poor decisions being made.
We'll keep the Texas dirt away from your cryo chamber should this ever happen to you.
Also, first of all, never setting foot in a cryo chamber. Absolutely will not be happening.
Great news. Lavera doesn't have time to wonder for long if she had anything to do with what went wrong because they're all going to die. Brings us to Tang. Mauled by a xenomorph after it alerted him to its presence by drooling on him through an air vent above his head. Again,
I don't understand this. I'm with you, Mal. I don't understand this performance because I was trying to think about Tang and of course, our guy, Tim Oliphant. Your conversation about the hip waggle was very important to me emotionally. But I was thinking about it, I was like, if Ash, this is 2 years before Ash, if Ash is such a convincing synth that they don't even know he's a synth, then synth technology is extremely advanced,
But also, as you said, canonically, these models are a little twitchy.
Yeah.
Ash,
certainly. The magazine role, forever a stunning moment in cinema. But Tang is acting so robotic, so disaffected and so robotic throughout. Then his oversized scream reaction then doesn't make sense to me. So I'm why is he having this big emotional reaction when he's reacted to nothing throughout this whole our whole experience with him? I don't know.
It's working for me because I cannot explain it.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't understand anything that's happening with that performance, with that character. It's all so wild, and yet I am captivated by it. I'm here for the Tang show. It's a very different show. There's a lot of lurking in hallways. It's a lot of drawing
doing
out
your filth.
sentences.
A lot of doing your filth. A lot of giving countdowns in seconds instead of days or months. Malachite.
My guy.
Blood slug ass ticks slurping on the artery of his GI tract, plus just asphyxiation to seal the deal. That's a tough one.
I think it's
vomited up a lot of blood.
This is the one.
I feel really bad for Malachite that he went out
like a chump
with Space Cholula and shitty lo mein. When he was dreaming of Peking duck,
exactly,
scallion pancakes, hoisin sauce. None of that took him out. It was Space Cholula and shitty lo mein.
First of all, Joe, that was not Space Cholula. That was at best Space Crystal, maybe Space Tabasco. Like, it was the lowest rent hot sauce you could possibly find.
Won't lie to you, Rob. I did freeze frame the label and try to source it to something, and it looks the most like Cholula for me, so that's what I went for. But you're right that probably their shitty lo mein had shitty Crystal hot sauce on top of it.
Yeah.
I'm sure it says like Wayland Yutani sauce on that. I couldn't get a high enough resolution.
I love Yutani sauce.
I will say the fun visual for Malachite of the chain with the hook coming down in shadow behind him was really fun.
That was great. You're like, this guy's about to get stabbed through the neck.
No.
Just chain.
This worse.
Then he's going to vomit up a bunch of blood.
Way worse.
This does seem like the worst way to go.
Like, I think so.
I feel like most of the other deaths were either very, very quick, or the person dying was quickly unconscious and then therefore probably didn't feel as much of the experience. But getting a bunch of blood slug ass ticks down your esophagus, slowly siphoning off your blood, causing you incredible abdominal pain, that doesn't seem great. And leading that into coughing up blood and passing out from that pain.
I will also say I have another candidate, but I think you're probably right. I will say we were zooming in on the water bottle, so his head was cut off. But when he starts coughing because of the hot sauce, but of course it like makes us think of Alien, have him coughing at the dinner table. I thought that was really good too.
Fantastic stuff. Raheem. Asphyxiation caused by trying to pry loose the Aztec with the prong and shaky hand, as discussed. Hip flask right before surgery. No protective gear on whatsoever. Very tough. Chibouzo, same cause of death. The only tweak here is all of the above plus begging Raheem not to do all of that stuff. So there's the extra anxiety there.
Hot take for these two doctors / science officers, whatever they were.
Too dumb to live.
They deserved everything that they got. Chibouzo especially.
This is a bit of a personality test, though. Would you rather be the Raheem who's shakily removing the blood slug and therefore causing you both to die? Or would you rather be the Chibouzo who, in this case, is not exactly causing the death, but you are dying by somebody else's incompetence all the same?
I want to be master of my own fate. I
think I go in that direction too. I'd rather be the one who's like causing it, but I guess if you're Chibouzo, well, only in that one circumstance you have less blame, but in general, that's not true for Chibouzo in this episode. Obviously, blame plenty. That's interesting too, ultimately, that like everything that's happening with the blood slugs and the eyeball jockey is like kind of separate from the xenomorph eggs and like the actual plot. It's just the like synchronicity of all of that heightens the horror. Clem, more of a just sort of like could have happened on Earth death. Shot in combat and then shot and killed in the back of the head because Morrow, who we love, just kind of leaves the back of his head exposed for a clear target shot, which was mystifying to me, but there's a lot happening in battle. Also, Clem was killed shortly after Morrow called him chlamydia, and he had to say, please don't call me that. So that, I think, does move him up higher on the list of tough ways to go.
Chlamydia as a nickname for a guy named Clem is pretty great.
It's pretty great.
Extra and good also, if you're like filming your colleagues fucking and offering other people to watch them. It just all feels right for Clem.
Not unearned in his case.
And he's like, he's like, wake up, the captain's dead. The captain's dead.
The alarm's going off. Got to tell you what's happened. Petrovich, we already talked about, just a classic stab through the chest. Got a little bit duped by some steam jets that masked Morrow's approach. Shmuel, brain death via eyeball jockey, body death via xenomorph tail.
I thought this was
a good one.
Cool. In terms of like, once again, we meet Shmuel already dead. So we don't know exactly how he died. Probably death by eyeball jockey, but we don't.
Who's to say?
I just like to see it to know. Do you know what I mean?
The tentacle coming out of the nostril. I'll never recover.
And the noise.
And then, to like lift the lip, but like didn't kill Zavari, once again, eyeball jockey evil, I'm not sure. But the way in which the eyeball jockey used the Shmuel body to try to fight the xenomorph, like I can't recall in the Alien franchise that I've ever seen a human fling themselves on the back of a xenomorph and then try to
parkour off the crates. That was great. Gnawing on the neck.
I've never seen it, so that was fun to watch.
Well, and do we think because obviously the fabled, hard exterior, the armor on the xenomorph, do we think that the eyeball jockey can in fact penetrate the eye cavity? Because it makes the move. Like after
it does. It lunges.
After the body is useless, it goes right for Xeno Eye. So that feels like it's in play for something that we could actually see again, which would be frankly delightful. And then Zaveri just mauled by a xenomorph. We knew that was coming. It was
tough.
Very tough.
2 things I want to say. First of all, to go back to Shmuel for a second, I just want to shout out Michael Smiley, who I've loved since Spaced. I think is like one of the greatest Irishmen that have ever existed.
Fantastic on Bad Sisters.
Just like really just a legend always. And so a real delight inside of both of the episodes he appeared on this show. Zavari, I want to say this.
Yeah.
Zavari as our like Ripley stand-in sort of character. I would have just enjoyed seeing Zavari make some decisions I agreed with. I like throughout the episode, she does not get to do anything cool. She is mostly standing and quivering and like being sort of bullied by Morrow, and that like bugged me. And then I would just like to have seen a woman inside of this episode do something active and cool. And I don't feel like I got to inside of this Alien franchise where usually a woman does at least something kind of cool inside of a haunted spaceship. So
first of all, please respect the eyeball jockey. She's doing great work out here.
Great point.
You know what?
All right.
When you're right, you're right.
Xenomorph's
doing well.
That's great.
Zavari does fall into the range of like all these characters are doing dumb shit. Like it is a very alien thing to do. And I think laying it out the way that Morrow and Zavari do of the like, what is incompetence and what is sabotage? And the truth of the alien universe is like 99% of it is incompetence. And then sometimes there's a little bit of sabotage nudging it along. But most of these people in these stories are really dumb or make very emotional, impulsive decisions.
She just gets that gun and then she drops it really quickly. And then like never uses it. And I just,
So here's something that we hear Raheem say. He is invoking the victory for the enemy of reason. And then explains, the space bug is proof of how stupid smart people can be. Smart enough to build ships capable of space travel, of splitting the atom and decoding the genome, but too stupid to realize you don't bring parasites home with you. Now, certainly this is on our minds as we learn that Boy is behind what is happening here. Yep. And obviously it's on our mind with Yutani and the members of the Five who are elbowing each other out of the way for power and for access to these specimens. But it is also on our mind then with every single thing we see all of these people do. Like, I love a working lunch. We've all got busy days. But when we're watching Chiriboga in pretty short succession, leave that open water bottle there, have the food that close to the encounter, not cap the container, not confirm that eyeball jockey is latched.
Like
on and on the list goes. It's like, that's not even just hubris. That's not flying too close to the sun and seeking out something that you should never have meddled with. I mean, it's entwined with that, but it's also like, we just need you to be like QCing your work a little bit more, members of the Maginot. So yeah, I think they're kind of like all doing stupid shit all of the time and obviously suffer horrible consequences as a result. They're all dumb.
They're all very dumb. But look, Chiriboga is terrible at her job.
Yeah.
But this performance, like Karen Aldridge in addition to Michael Smiley are the two performers on the Maginot who's like, that's an alien actor to me. Like they fit on one of these ships. They fit as a part of one of these crews. She felt like of a piece with this universe, even while doing ridiculously dumb things.
I was very taken by Raheem. Did you guys like Raheem as
Great
much
hang.
as I did? Bro, we've been stuck in a metal tube for 65 years breathing recycled farts. How are you not sweating? I'm gonna give it to my guy Clem.
You're a Clem head. Yeah. You're a chlamydia head.
Two of the Clem things got out, the octopus with the long fingers. That's really good. But I think when he goes into the lab and he's like, let me sweep the place and then grab the stool.
Sensational moment. Yeah. That's really good.
I would like more time with that.
That's really good. Hard to argue. I did enjoy as well with Raheem during his interview when Morrow's like, you were out of view for this long. And he's like, I don't know. You're like, your cameras suck. And then also when they're like, what has gone wrong here? And he's like, I was taking a shit. Like, I was gone for 10 minutes max. Sorry. That's just
it's bad timing.
Incredible stuff. I loved him. That was very funny. Anything else either on the human idiocy front or alien brilliance front that you want to highlight or call out that we haven't already discussed?
How many blood slugs are just running around?
Now a lot, because the Aztecs are baby blood slugs, right? So they're slurping it up and growing until we see like all of them on the march.
Yeah.
And
this is not a contained
Clem's brain hole.
Yeah, like we took most of the monsters to Neverland Island, but like there's definitely blood slugs running around New Siam. Like definitely.
Lovely. I mean, one of them killed 3 people and counting, and I guess maybe if it's the same slug, also Gaitok. I'm just saying these things seem very dangerous and more smart than we were led on. To be fair to the crew of the Maginot, hard to update the notes when you're getting murdered by the critters, you know? So maybe the intel was not quite up to date.
True. True. They're going to be doing some updating from Neverland.
Something has to happen in season 2, you know? And if it's like and those blood slugs are smart. They can learn how to operate elevators, no problem.
I'm just saying, justice for the blood slug, justice for the eyeball jockey. Who I think this really, as the story goes on, this is the story of the like what happens if you have one bad day, but for the eyeball jockey. This is just the worst day of the eyeball jockey's life.
Eyeball jockey. No, I'm not kidding you, is a top 5 character in this show for me.
It's amazing.
Legitimately great.
Specifically right now inside of the sheep, because what they're able to do with that sheep face is really working for me. And when it was like up on 2 hind legs and I was like, nope, that's not what I do.
No, don't like that at all.
Really into it.
What did we interpret from once Eyeball Jockey is in Shmuel and makes its guttural squawking noises? Is it communicating with the xenomorph, or does the xenomorph just hear the squawking and double back?
I thought it was like oh shit, my enemy is here kind of like a war
I thought it
cry.
Was calling to Wendy on the mainland. Just kidding.
Someone can hear me.
Wendy, pick up.
Look, we were begging for a little more earned history between these characters. The earned history between Eyeball Jockey and Xenomorph, where it was like, this has been somebody's tree has been overhanging somebody's lawn for a long time.
Absolutely. This is also like a great show don't tell episode on that front, because like we heard all of the Kirsch telling, I was gonna say Toodles, forgive me, Isaac, you know, you see these waves and the concentration, the mental prowess. It's like we watched that. We watched what Eyeball Jockey was able to do, the observation, the communication, the physical activity. The way that Blood Slug waited and then opened and made a move, like these creatures are clearly smarter than the members of the Maginot. That's not even up for debate. Are they going to be able to hang with Boy? The boy genius of our time? Like, that'll be an interesting mental battle to watch.
Misquoting famous sci-fi authors all the time who thinks he's smarter than everyone, and then Kurtz is just
so
sure.
So tough.
My guy Boy is going out. It's going to be really exciting to watch. The only thing that saddens, like, I am eagerly anticipating his death, but also I don't want a season 2 without him. So if they have like a clone body waiting and his consciousness has recently been uploaded, then we get the best of both worlds, maybe.
Yeah, and he's such an egomaniac that everybody else picks a different body, but not him.
Or maybe he's a secret synth.
It's like, I'm just going to be Sam.
No, he's not a secret synth.
That would be a weird secret synth. I hope
not. It would.
Anything else that we haven't hit that you guys want to mention from this episode or for the first 5 episodes to date? We only have 3 left.
I'm really excited for the final 3 episodes. I've heard I have not watched ahead, but I have heard from people who have that the last 2 episodes are like absolute bangers.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
And so like people who didn't like love the middle of the season. So I was like, okay, if you didn't love the middle of the season and I'm quite high in the middle of this season, the fact that further heights are awaiting us at the end is really exciting. So
the conversation to the mountaintop between us and the Eyeball Jockey and the Xenomorph will be coming.
Wonderful stuff.
I mean, just maybe this sets up your interview today too, but like for me, just to zoom out, we've talked about this a little bit throughout this conversation. Morrow to me is crystallizing himself as like one of the great alien characters. Like I really enjoy his presence on the show, clearly that performance, but I'm getting more out of that specific slot in the plot than I ever would have anticipated from the first couple episodes. Where I was like, I don't know about this cyborg guy. I don't know about this presence within the show. And then all of a sudden, it's like I just can't wait for every second he's on screen.
I think I really agree, and I think that like it's a tricky role that could have not gone well in the hands of a different actor, and I think he's just so mesmerizing. And so as he's like weaving his spell around slightly, he's weaving his spell around us at the same time. I do want to shout out one other Peter Pan, as we track his like Captain Hook status or whatever. Captain Hook loves a cigar. Captain Hook will stab you without taking the cigar out of his mouth to do so. Actually, he smokes 2 at a time, but don't worry about it. But so I look forward to Morrow like puffing away on a cigar whilst stabbing people. That's the heights we could possibly reach here.
What a dream.
I thought that dropping the lit cigar down
the acid hole
was extremely ill-advised, but a great way to really hammer home that he was smoking cigars a lot. It's like you kind of can't miss it when he's doing something like that, which was great. Yeah, I think it's been a real masterstroke of the season. Like so many of the humans who are either fearing or seeking this advancement through technology, the synthetic characters who are either resisting, or longing like for some sort of tether to humanity, and to give us a character who embodies all of that. Right? Like you think sort of when you see that first flash of the battle for the race for, cyborgs and synths and hybrids. And you're kind of like, well, like cyborgs, I mean, that just seems like old tech. That's like an iPod 1. But that it's been the most interesting because he's inhabiting all of those camps. He is part man, part machine, and he is not in touch in any sort of positive, affirming way with any aspect of that. Right? Like still one of the highlights of the season was like the worst parts of the man. Yeah. Like just such an interesting idea and such rich soil to like continue to mine.
I also found
it's really been good.
The visual of him, like of the sweat pouring down his face.
Oh my God.
So good
real
because
sweaty
that's
episode.
So human, and so like we're used to watching these synths who like bleed milk and are not, anything. And he's just so human and a master emotional manipulator. And the fact that the way in which he's manipulating slightly in this paternal way, like using his skills as a dad to manipulate this child, it's just incredible stuff. I'm so glad our interview with Babou Ceesay went so well. I'm so glad that we just really knocked it out of the park with all of our questions. And I'm excited for people to listen to it.
Let's go now to our chat with Noah Hawley and Babou Ceesay. All right, Noah, let's get cracking with you here. In episode 5, Raheem speaks about the enemy of reason and how stupid smart people can be. And this idea is ever present across the entire Alien franchise, where hubris is just constantly leading very capable, accomplished people to terrifying fates and terrible fates. When it came to wanting to play in the Alien sandbox, how central was that desire for you, like wanting to explore our self-destructive tendencies? And then how has orienting so much of this season around the lair of a genius who always thinks he's ahead and always thinks he knows best, the barefoot and surely wax-winged boy cavalier, allowed you to mine that smart people, stupid choices, contradiction in the way that you craved?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a staple of Alien. It's not. It's something you will find also in a Jurassic Park, or the idea that science, for all of its intellectualism, actually there's a level of hubris to it, where people think just because I can do something doesn't mean I should do something. You have to wonder after all those Alien movies if the folks back at the bioweapons lab are just going, where are my weapons? They never show up, right? They keep sending people out to get them, and they just never make it back. But nobody is going, this is a bad idea. So, Boy Cavalier, it's clearly there's some impulse control issues. If you're someone who thinks that they're a genius and has never failed at anything, then by definition, you think failure is not an option for you, and that every idea you have is a genius idea, and that works fine until you introduce predators into the apex predators into the mix, and then which is not to say predators, because we're not doing predator.
I was like,
no one should
have the
feel.
internet buzzing with that one.
No one should feel like I just revealed anything. Predator is also the name for a type of animal.
Babou, we wanted to ask you. We are just absolutely obsessed with your performance. We think Morrow is such a fascinating character, and we get to spend some time learning more about his backstory. And I was interested. We've seen this story of betraying the crew on an alien in an alien story before. Usually, it's for cold, calculated programming or corporate greed. But I found it so interesting to hear Morrow describe this passionately as his life's work. And I was wondering if you could talk about that motivation, especially when we learn what happened with his daughter and everything that we find out in episode 5.
I mean, yeah, when Noah talked to me about what happened with his daughter, I already had that drive anyway with some of the relationship he's got with Yutani. It also gets revealed in this episode that she took him off the street. That great line, a feral boy with a palsied arm. And it made me think of, well, how did he end up on the street? He got abandoned. If he's found and he's given an opportunity, why is he given an opportunity? The fiercest thing he'd ever seen. So he understands his utility, his fierceness, and he's got to keep doing that. And then you add into the mix, genius by Noah, that he's got a daughter. And then I start thinking, how did he date? Who did he meet? How did he ever even have a child with this dude, right? So he's got a daughter who now is the most important thing in his life, and he's lost her. And he's lost her in a way that if he had been there, maybe something different would have happened. So that made me take it further down the line in the life's work thought that, well, if he's gone to outer space and he's lost his daughter, and then it all comes to nothing.
Right.
So what was it all for?
Mm-hmm.
Like he sacrificed one of the most important things in his life, the most important person in his life, essentially. And, I don't know, I'm a father. I believe that if Morrow had been there, he might have, that the outcome would not have been the same. So he now has to find a reason to keep going. This has to be his life, saving, getting these creatures and completing his mission. That's what I interpreted as.
But he also says, just lightly, people do terrible things in the name of loyalty, right? Like he's aware that that loyalty, which he is fiercely loyal to this woman who is dead, right? This, who took him in. He sacrificed his daughter for her. He sacrificed 65 years for her. So yeah, he's really in a bind, but he has this code. And what I love about this hour is that, it makes Morrow undeniable as a hero in this story.
Interesting. Okay.
There's a lot of places we could go from here. We wanted to ask about a number of things that you both just said. Let's go with heroes and villains, because that was on our mind. There's this wonderful ensnaring of Slightly in Morrow's trap through this very potent idea to a child, but to everyone throughout their life, am I the hero, right? Can I be the hero? I'm going to tell myself I'm the hero. And of course, it's always a matter of perspective. It's always in the eye of the beholder. And one of the things that we have really loved about watching Morrow as a character is the way that perspective shifts, because undeniably, we have seen him do villainous things or allow villainous things to unfold and transpire. He has shown us that self-loathing as he has to reconcile with the choices that he has made, asks these more innocent figures in front of him, would you have done these things that I did? What would it mean if you had? But then when we see him in direct opposition to somebody who is putting such evil into the world, like a force like Boy Cavalier, how can we not find ourselves rooting for him to win? And doesn't that make him a hero? So I think that's such an interesting dance to have to manage, right? Where it's not necessarily, it feels like to me, about telling us definitively in each moment what is true. It's more about us watching the characters have to reflect on that and think about that and kind of move between barriers. So I'm wondering, both in terms of the performance, but also the writing and the thematic resonance of that, are we moving toward a clear, decisive answer? Is that the goal? Or is it more about how those shifts between the various states, what that causes us to do when we're reflecting on our own lives?
Well, I think it's, Alien, there's a large gray area morality wise, in it's not as black and white as some other franchises are. And I do a lot of storytelling with villains and heroes, and I never want the violence that is inevitable to be entertainment. And so, it's really important that we shift points of view back and forth between these characters. And I do think that he is correct in saying, if you stole this from me, how is it wrong for me to take it back? Now, the means and the ends aren't necessarily justifying, right? You can't do evil things to achieve a good end and be considered good in the New Testament way, right? But I'm not sure we're living in a New Testament moment right now. And I know that I see memes of two different guys riding AI eagles right now, and both of them are heroes to somebody. So
sure.
I wanted to ask, Babou, did you have anything you wanted to add in that question? Okay, great. Well, I wanted to ask, I've been thinking a lot about, as we go through this series, we've been revisiting the rest of the installments in the franchise. And there's this, very famous line that Ash has in the first Alien movie where he says, where he calls the xenomorph a survivor unclouded by conscience, remorse, and delusions of morality. He's admiringly saying this. And I was curious if that idea of survival at any cost, if that is something you think about as you apply it to trillionaires, to synthetics, to hybrids, to characters all across this story, Noah.
Well, I mean, morality is a construct, right? And people buy into it, and they don't. Not everyone agrees on what morality is, and so, what the greatest good for the most people is. Different people have seen it differently throughout history. I think Boyd Cavalier thinks that if he's going to offer people an immortality product, what does it matter if he owns the children who are the floor models, right? So, because in the end, it'll be great for humanity. You're going to love it. I think that the creatures are uncomplicated by ulterior motives. And I think that Wendy has a child's romanticized idea of that, right? They didn't ask to be here. They're just creatures trying to survive. Sure, maybe they're predators, but that's not because they're filled with hate. That's just their biological function. And I think that on the one hand, that's true. And on the other hand, they're still incredibly dangerous creatures who might wipe out the entire species if you let them. So maybe we need a slightly more adult perspective.
Some of the adults are watching children's cartoons throughout the series. We were curious about the choices. When Joe tells us about the legend of Mr. October, we understand why his father, you, would have passed this on to him, right? And we also understand as the audience, what we're supposed to take from this, what it means to be asked to meet the moment. We have these sequences with the Ice Age films, or the animated film Epic. And curious, especially given the concentration in 2010 animated films that seem to have made it into this future, what is on your mind when you're selecting these slivers of pop culture to port forward into the future? What does that tell us, either in terms of the text itself or just more broadly the type of story and the type of experience that people in this future still choose to revisit and choose to share? What are they finding there, and why did you choose to center those particular tales?
I mean, sometimes a cartoon is just a cartoon on some level. I thought
tell that to the guy reading Peter Pan into his microphone every night.
Well, before it was a cartoon, it was a very disturbing book of quote children's literature. I'm sure Babou has his own answer to this movie, but if you ask me what movie I've seen more than any other movie in my life, having two children under the age of 20, it's going to be Ice Age. Mm-hmm. There was a moment with my son where I literally because of course there's 5 of them or whatever, and whenever I asked him what he wants,
Transylvania, that's my
right. Oh yeah.
Nice.
We've seen a lot of those too. So, it's a big part of a family, right? Those movies, those stories, and it's not just because I work for Disney. It's because I have a family, and I was looking for an economical way to show a bond between a brother and a sister of vastly different ages. And, this was something that they did together that's visual, that I could show to the audience, that is, has a certain, romanticism to it. And then the Peter Pan obviously is tied thematically into the concept of these hybrids, et cetera. So, I mean, there was part of me that knew that in turning an R-rated monster survival story into what is hopefully, a very accessible, large scale television epic, that I need to make a show that appeals to both younger and older people as well.
All right, let's pick up the Peter Pan thread. Mallory and I have been diving back into this very, disturbing text, and enjoying our time, of course, with Captain Hook, who gets his comp in Morrow. We even get some cigar smoking from Morrow, very Captain Hook thing to do. I'm curious for you, Babou, like how much is that on your mind, this seduction of a lost boy, a very Hook thing to do? How much is that character comp on your mind as you're going forward?
Not at all.
Not at all.
About 6 days ago, when I've joined social media as part of this. I've been on social media for like 5 years, and somebody sent me a comp basically of Who's Who, Boy Cavalier is Peter Pan, and I'm Captain Hook, and the Xenomorph crocodile. And so when I saw that, I went, oh. Of course, then I saw the hook and the arm and everything else, and it brought something. But no, it's just that seduction of slightly, and that's right on the line. He's grooming this poor kid. It's that's down to Noah and just that incredible scene. And that was actually my first experience of this script, is reading that scene. That's the first thing I did before I went and read all the episodes. And I remember reading it thinking, whoa, this is an interesting, this is on the line. I found myself a little bit, and want your character to be at least a little bit lovable.
Well, another element that felt really important in expanding from a 2-hour movie to a long form story is expanding the definition of horror, right? Which in the Alien movies, it's obviously there's the body horror of it and the creature horror. But here I'm just amplifying a real moral horror of the things that people do to each other that is certainly present in those first couple of films, and Fincher's film. But, here it really is the horrors of the adult world, right? The things that adults do, because these kids don't know. You got to teach them how to hate. You got to teach them how to deceive. And so, this man who is telling this child, you said something very wise to me, that everybody needs a friend. Will you be my friend? I mean, it's so awful and manipulative. And it's horrifying, right? And that horror permeates the rest of the horror. So that felt like a sort of essential expansion.
I think one of the things that we've really loved about the way the season is unfolding, and like the peeling back of the layers episode after episode, so that we gain further understanding of what drove a character to the point, is the way that what might seem in a given moment like moral certainty on our part as viewers, then immediately becomes more complex than that. So to that point, like when we're watching Morrow use slightly as a tool, we're repelled by that. How could we not be? That is what we're meant to feel. But I found myself in episode 5 when we learned basically that the parallel, which you already invoked, Babou, like when we learned that he is a boy with a palsied arm, was brought in by Yutani and then turned into a cyborg and sent out to gather her specimens. I'm like, okay, so he was her lost boy, right? The parallel there feels very clear. And so then I start to wonder, who is he seeing when he looks at Slightly? is it his daughter like we originally believed, or is it himself, or is it both? And then which of those forces wins out at the end of the day? If he goes back, obviously you guys are not going to tell us what happens in the future episodes. We're not asking you to, but like, you know, when we learn about his daughter's death and we see her effects are waiting for you upon your return, I'm like, what happens if he goes and collects those and looks at them and feels that surge of a human connection to what was lost? Does it further cement him in this like calcified, well, that was what I was robbed and deprived of? Or wait, I remember what it was like to be young or to care for somebody who was young. Like, Babou, when you're playing Morrow, are you trying to occupy, do you feel you have to occupy all of those spaces and ages and states of circumstance at once? Do you feel that you're more firmly rooted in one of those perspectives? I'm the kid or I'm the father?
I mean, it's just so many things happen to Morrow throughout the series in terms of where he goes and the types of people he deals with. Even in episode 5, suddenly he's with a group of people. Suddenly he's in a corporation. It's not like a lone wolf walking around a planet trying to figure out how to get what he needs to get done. He has to work with Zaveri, you know, and that sort of disgusted me slightly. I wanted to almost be back on Earth dealing with Slightly, but I had to ask myself, when he works with Slightly, there has to be something different going on. When he's talking to Kirsch, there has to be something different going on. But with Slightly in particular, obviously, we only see a few of the conversations he has. There's a hint that there's more that happens behind the scenes. I think that on some level, there is something about talking to a 10-year-old that's just going to be different for him. Mm-hmm. What Noah was saying earlier about you'd have to teach them to hate, you have to teach them to lie. There is probably something quite honest and simple and forthright about Slightly that I think penetrates Morrow on some level. So when he says to him, she hated raisins, you know, smile comes out, which, you know, when I was doing it, I wasn't thinking of that. But when I saw it, I thought, oh, okay, interesting little moment there. Maybe there's a moment of enjoyment of dealing with the kid. Who are you going to tell, what adult are you going to tell about raisins, except one day? So, yeah, I definitely lent into that of there's something there between him and Slightly that grows. Hmm. He has to do what he has to do, but there's the moral horror, but it does grow.
In terms of the transition for Slightly from child to child and synthetic body, other than this manipulative relationship he finds himself in, things are going pretty well. Not so much for our girl Nibs. And so I wanted to ask you, Noah, to talk a little bit about, obviously there's places we're going to go. We have not watched ahead. We don't know. But like from what we're getting so far with Nibs and that absolutely startling scene with Dame Sylvia, what were you most interested in exploring inside of that character?
Well, in many ways, it's another example of hubris, right? To think that they could take not just one child and transfer them to a synthetic body, but to take, you know, all of these children and that they would all get through it just fine and just have to grow up. But, you know, clearly, I mean, we don't know yet much about who Nibs was as a child, but clearly there's some instability there, and the experiences that she had so quickly after her transition and going out to this crash site and experiencing this creature that wanted to get inside of her body, which made her think, well, what is my body even? And then this disassociative state that she entered into. I mean, I think Alien is very much about the creation of monsters, right? And we're learning in episode 5, for those people who might consider Morrow a monster, how was that monster created? You know, over all these years, these circumstances where he would be willing to do whatever it took to get these creatures back. And, you know, if there is a battle for all of these children's souls, you know, if Nibs can't be grounded in the reality that other people are real or you know, her delusions, then she's almost more dangerous than the creatures, because she's operating in a deluded state. She's not a creature, you know, simply trying to eat.
Boy, dark. grim. It's harrowing. Almost as harrowing. Almost. As hearing Boy Cavalier credit, at a certain point, technology is indistinguishable from magic to Isaac Asimov instead of Arthur C. Clarke's Three Laws.
What does it matter? It's really that he credited anyone and didn't just own it himself.
Well, so that's what we wanted to ask you, because I don't know if you could tell we're sci-fi nerds here and like to go to literary corner every so often. And so we have been genuinely like obsessed with this. What it tells us, what it means that he pointed to Asimov instead of Clarke. Is it Boy's too busy to pay attention, he actually doesn't know? Like, is this some sort of commentary on his attention to detail, his intellect that he thinks is so extraordinary? Is it, hey, you know what? Clarke and Asimov, famous peers and rivals, and this is a commentary on Boy maybe being drawn toward or gravitating toward the guy, not the originator, but the one who said, let me toy with that. Let me play with it. Let me spin it and reposition it and put it out into the world in a slightly different way. And in terms of like his corporate rivalry with Yutani or anybody else in the Five, that's the perspective that he aligns with and favors. Like, what are we meant to glean from this?
It's whatever agitates you the most is the answer.
Okay, I'm going to go with then the fact that he was probably reading the quote in the first place on his iPad
with his
feet. Holding it with his bare feet. I'm going to go with that then. Yeah.
He used ChatGPT and it misappropriated the quote, as it does with so many.
Yeah.
I mean, there you go. That's probably it.
Sounds right. Yeah. We mentioned some of our favorite characters in the season so far. Top of the list, honestly, genuinely, is the eyeball monster. Who we call the eyeball jockey because it rides around people, but you can call it, has a scientific name, I know, but that's what we say. I'm curious, as you're dreaming up all these other monsters inside of this world, what was it about the eyeball and the way in which it takes over and its cunning intelligence was sort of most interesting to you?
Well, anything above the neck is pretty disturbing, right? And the face hugger obviously is very much a smothering, gagging. It's very penetrative in that way, and I think that we've lived with that fear for 40 years. I just moved up a couple of holes, right? And and people
Different
get
orifice.
squeamish about
put it on the poster. Yeah,
people get squeamish about eyeballs, and they're very strange gelatinous things. So I think there's something disturbing just from a physical standpoint, but I think there's also something disturbing to the idea of just a total loss of control, that you would be walking around. And everyone would look at you and see you, but you wouldn't be you. It's an invasion of the body snatchers kind of element to it as well. Where we don't know, is it irreversible? Is it are you still alive? We don't know any of those things yet in the story. But what we do know is it's a bad day. It's a bad day.
Ooh.
That's very Morrow of you. I'm just gonna have one bad day. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Oh man. Now I'm thinking about the cat again, and now I'm upset. So this is now's a tough one. Was that like number one on your to-do list?
That cat had other problems. If you noticed,
I did.
Yeah.
I did notice the back half, and you're obviously just focused on neck up, as you just told us with the eyeball jockey. But
that was an ex-cat.
Deeply distressing. Deeply distressing. Shmuel had an encounter with the eyeball jockey as well with Tio Celis. And I don't know if you'll indulge us for a moment with this hypothetical thought experiment, but we were really struck by how Shmuel and Malachite really felt like they would be at home in a season of Fargo. And if you could universe swap any of your creations, who from Alien do you think would best fit in one of your other worlds, Fargo, Legion, or otherwise? And is there anybody from one of those stories who you'd love to be able to bring into Alien Earth?
Well, I did literally use 3 actors from Fargo on the Maginot. So I think I've answered that question already. I would certainly I would stand behind Patrick Wilson in any heroic circumstance for sure. So he's the first one that comes to mind. But I do think that I really, it was a tall order, right? In the course of 51 minutes, in the middle of a show about other characters, to introduce this whole crew, right? To make them, each of them distinctive, with dynamics and relationships that you invested in and understood. And I just find there's something so endearing about dumb characters. Poor Malachite, who doesn't even know what an apprentice is and thinks a saboteur is at a Frenchman. And then Shmuel, who's trying to get him to cut his pie in half so he can have two pies. And, there's something very, I always thought of that first Alien movie as a bit like Waiting for Godot, right? Mm-hmm. You have these characters, they're going to a place they don't know where to do a thing they don't know what for people they don't know who, right? And they're talking about the shares and the pay and it's very blue collar, and I really thought that those guys down in engineering gave me that verite.
Babou, we've already mentioned a couple Morrow moments that we absolutely loved, but I think the thing that sort of put our jaws on the floor, especially inside of the Alien franchise that has so much to do with what is a human, what is a man, is this, wouldn't that be nice to be all machine instead of what I am, the worst parts of a man. What a bar, what a banger of a line.
Gorgeous.
How are you thinking about, you've already mentioned a little bit, but how are you thinking about this mechanical aspect? I mean, you mentioned it might interfere with his dating life, but I don't know. I think some women would love to date a cyborg.
Could be an enhancement. Yeah.
I think it might be an advantage. But what are you thinking about that cybernetic part of him, and what are the worst parts of a man? What does he feel like is left over for him here?
Oh, I've had many different interpretations of that. We all have a sort of silent loathing for our bodies. I don't know anybody. I know very few people who are happy with the way they look and feel physically. So there was that element that I went to. And of course, with an enhancement, you think, well, the rest of it is the weak link. It's the limit to how far you can go in terms of what heroic things you can do. But I also thought of it in terms of his emotional life. I think on some level, he wishes he was more Kirsch, able to control his emotions completely, 100, not even half them, because what do they do to you? He's unable to be as observant, be as sharp. He has to sort of push them down. So I think that's what I meant, the worst parts of a man: sweat, pain, emotions, a weak body, whatever it may be. Yeah, that's what I lent towards.
Would you still opt to be Kirsch if you were required to bleach your eyebrows in order to do it?
Would I still?
If you had to bleach your eyebrows in order to do it, would you still?
Okay. It's a memorable hairstyle. It is. Leaves an impression. All right, I'm going to end on something that I don't think Noah will answer. But
then it will be a short answer.
For the internet.
Yes.
For Reddit. What did Grandma Yutani know and when? Just in terms of the canon timeline and what insights we have from other properties in the franchise about who learned what when. Is this something that will be revealed in the future, either in this season? Is this an area of your story that you're interested in exploring more in the future? Obviously, this would be updating some core mythology. If there are insights about what level of specific knowledge on the xenomorph or specimen more broadly front Weyland Yutani had when the Maginot set out. Of course, this story is set nearly proximate to Alien, but it is post Prometheus. But the Maginot sets out pre-Prometheus, right? So I'm like, is she crushing Alien versus Predator tape? Like, what what is leading to this level of awareness of what waits out there, or how general or specific was the pursuit? Is there anything you can tell us right now on that front, or will these answers come in time, or will they never come at all?
Well, instead of answering that question, I'm going to present you with this decorative plaque that says biggest nerd.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
that's
you're
really
welcome.
nice.
What an honor.
That's beautiful.
Honor.
I have done a lot of press in promoting the show, and You are by far the biggest nerd that I've spoken to, and you should feel good about that.
I'm thrilled. I'm going to put that plaque next to Wendy's drawing of Joe's face, and I'm going to have it in my my bedroom next to my charging pod where I sleep at night. So this is great. I'm thrilled.
All right. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you.
Thank
so
you
much.
both.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Woo, what a chat that was.
I mean, Rob, don't you agree? It went so well.
Rip roaring.
Fantastic.
Could not miss a second of it. Just incredible stuff from both of you, especially.
Oh, man. Guys, Morrow might have said 10 more people with feelings. No, can't have it. But for us, that was exactly what we needed for this episode. Big team up today, the whole crew. Rob, you were here with us. Noah Hawley and Babou Ceesay were here with us. Carlos Chiriboga, John Richter, Arjuna Ramgopal, Jomi Adeniran. It's our own little Maginot space crew. Hopefully it goes better for all of us than it did for them. If not, dibs on the impact chamber. Just an absolute thrill to be here with you guys to talk about this. I can't wait to do episode 6 together next week.
Likewise.
Bye.